join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk Jones, if you would call the roll,
I'd be
please.
happy to. The roll for the City Council meeting of May the 9th. Councilor Wright.
He's here.
Present.
Thank you. Councilor Zeed.
Present.
Councilor Cameron.
Present.
Councilor Donahue.
Present.
Thank you.
Sorry, present.
Councilor Khan.
Present.
Councilor Lane.
Here.
Thank you. Councilor McCauley.
Here.
Councilor Preston.
Present.
Councilor Vogel.
Present.
Councilor Wallace.
Present.
Wonderful. And Councilor Shan.
Present.
All present and accounted for.
Late files.
Well, we have a number of them. We have an application 77, which is Pride in the Port. That's to be held June 11th, 12 to 8 p.m., Market Square, Bullnose. We have appointment 321, Charles Olivasetti, 60 Bromfield Street to the Concom. We have order 354, which is the CPC recommendations. We have 355, a loan order for $2,500,000 on the mal-improvements. We have order 356, $3 million market landing expansion project, and order 357, which is a noise reduction ordinance for the dredging of the Merrimack River.
Motion to waive the rules and accept the late files.
Second.
Roll call.
On waiver of the rules, Councilor Wright. Councilor Wright. Councilor Zeed.
Yes.
Councilor Cameron.
Yes.
Councilor Donahue.
Yes.
Councilor Khan.
Yes.
Councilor Lane.
Yes.
Councilor McCauley.
Yes.
Councilor Preston.
Yes.
Councilor Vogel.
Yes.
Councilor Wallace.
Yes.
And Councilor Shan.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, so public comment. I appreciate there are a lot of folks here. For one, if you are here for short-term rental units, that ordinance is not going to come out tonight. It is going to be left in committee, so if you want to leave, short-term rental units will not be brought up this evening. Regarding the rest of public comment, for all those who are in attendance online, please raise your hand now. Once a clerk brings up the pad, I'll name the names who are in attendees. Once I list those names, we won't have any more, trying to keep it fair for the folks that are in the room as well. I also ask that folks be respectful tonight. If you notice how we do debate on the floor, we don't call out each other's names. We reference the ward counselor or the at-large counselor. So I'd ask that people be respectful when making public comment tonight. You will be limited to 2 minutes, and that is for a specific item that is on our agenda. So as far as the people who will be speaking from the Zoom, it will be Trish Boateng, Laura DePalma, and Lori Tao. If there's anyone else who wants to speak remotely, please raise your hand now. All right, so those will be the 3 remote participants, and then we have 10 in person. So first to speak will be Trish Boateng, and I will allow you to speak.
Good evening, Trish Boateng, 18 Merrill Street. Although I am an NYS staff member, tonight I am speaking solely in my role as a parent of 2 school-aged children. Before I begin, I would like to thank all City Council members for their service to our city. I'm urging the City Council to please allocate $30,000 from free cash to hire an architect to complete a design and cost estimate of 59 Low Street as our future home for NYS. I'm also urging the City Council to please pass the zoning amendment tonight to allow community center use at 59 Low Street. I know that a few City Council members have concerns about the process and what ideally comes next. Our kids have been without a building for many, many months. While NYS has made it work up to this point, it is just not the same. Our kids are struggling. If anyone hasn't looked at the youth asset data from December, I urge you to go to NYS's website and look at it. Many of our youth are stressed, anxious, and depressed. 9% of our youth reported having attempted suicide in Newburyport. LGBTQ plus youth are twice as likely to have less than 10 assets, our most vulnerable population. 72% of youth in Newburyport feel that adults in our community do not value them. Only 31% of young people are optimistic about their personal future. NYS is a safe haven for many. We cannot delay, we have to act. Our kids deserve confirmation that the adult leaders in our city hear them and are doing everything in their power to move things forward on their behalf. Sometimes adults have to stop, reconsider, and pivot, to compromise and not do what they had planned or even see as ideal or best practice. Sometimes adults have to stop everything and say, you are important, I hear you, you are so important that I'm going to change my mind. I'm going to do what you were asking of me, I'm going to show you that I'm with you. Truly, some of my most powerful parenting moments have been when I've taken a step back and really listened to my girls and then showed them in a meaningful way that I am with them, that they have given me perspective about what is important, that I hear their voice, and that they have the potential to make change happen even as a child. I ask you to not see order of process as the most important thing here. I ask you to send a strong and clear message to our youth that you hear them, that they are important, and you will do everything you can to move this project along because it matters so much to them. How powerful would that be? Thank you.
Trish, can you give us your address, please?
Or 18 Merrill Street.
All right, next is Laura De Palma. Be able to speak, it must be on your end, Mr. Palma. You need to unmute yourself. All right, Mr. Palma, we'll come back to you.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
I'm sorry about that. My name is Laura De Palma. I'm the managing partner of By New England Lobster. My business partner and I are interested in a zoning change for the purpose of seafood handling for commercial buildings in Newburyport. I'm happy to answer any questions anyone might have, but currently we're zoned to continue what we're doing, which is wholesale lobster sales. And we'd just like to be able to add on to our business model the ability to cook a small amount of lobster, which would not survive shipment. Does anyone have any questions about our use or concerns?
This is not time for questions, but thank you, Mr. Palma. Can you give us your address, please?
I live in Rye, New Hampshire, but our Newburyport address is 5 Perkins Way, Newburyport.
Thank you, Mr. Palma. All right, the next to speak is Dr. Lori Tao. I believe you are able to speak.
Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
My name is Dr. Lori Toll. I am a resident of Newburyport as well as a parent here in Newburyport and owner of Full Circle Classrooms. And I work with schools as well as educators and students. And I'm here tonight just to be of support for the potential of Pride in the Port for June 11th. And I'm here just to offer some support for that, but also for our youth in the community who fall into that LGBTQIA+ category. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tall. All right, so that's it for the online. So in the room, first is Amy Marr.
Hi, I'm Annie Moore, and I live at 17 Otis Place, and I'm here to ask you to support the municipal resolution to support the Fair Share Amendment. It's estimated the Fair Share Amendment will bring in $2 billion a year for our transportation and educational systems. In Massachusetts, we have 600 bridges that are in need of repair, and I can think of 2 in town. If you walk on the rail trail and you go under the High Street Bridge, there's netting there to keep concrete from falling on your head. And if you walk on the Washington Street Bridge over Route 1, you can see it's visibly crumbling. And we know we have many streets and sidewalks that need repair. And second, we need better public transportation. If you live in the city and you don't have a car or license, it's almost impossible to get around. We have very limited bus service. Bus stops are not clearly labeled. They're not sheltered. And it's very hard to travel throughout the Merrimack Valley by public transportation. And this impacts our seniors who can't drive anymore, our low-wage workers, and our students. So I'm hoping as civic leaders that you will support this amendment. It's very popular in the state, and it will directly benefit the citizens and the voters of Newburyport. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Brian Callahan.
Hello, everybody. Brian Callahan, 29 Warren Street. I'm here to support the zoning vote for 59 Low Street. I know that it's not the end of the world if you don't do it tonight, but I also don't see a reason to delay it. And it's my feeling that if we do it now, then when we get to the hard stuff like finding money for youth services, this part's done. I'm on the school committee. I'm here representing myself as a parent. But I know when you get into that stuff, we have to go back 2 steps to do something. So there's no reason to not take this vote tonight. I know it needs to be a supermajority. So I hope that happens. Secondly, full support for the Low Street address for youth services. And again, I'm an elected official. That doesn't mean I always know everything, and I feel the same goes for everybody on the council. If Andy Egmont, who has run this program for 17 years, thinks that's the best space for her kids and our kids, that's it. I mean, that's pretty much what it is. I know money's involved and all those other things, but full support for her idea to be there, and that's really about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Catherine Stark.
Yes, hi. I actually live at 86 High Street, and this is from Ted Nelson, CEO and co-founder of Mechanica, who can't be here tonight. I'm a Massachusetts business owner, committed Newburyport resident, and a big fan of the power of regulated capitalism to expansively create jobs, wealth, and general prosperity for all. Mechanica, the 18-year-old company my partner and our talented employees built, works with global corporate leaders to accelerate growth. We chose Massachusetts because it was one of the few states possessing the educational infrastructure, talented citizens, global cachet, and a quality of life that is so essential to not just attracting but retaining the best and brightest who can work anywhere they want. That is, being located in a state and community that tangibly invests in its future provides a major competitive advantage to us. It's for this reason that I support the Fair Share Amendment. The initiative, which would provide $1.3 to $2 billion additional state dollars each year for public education and transportation, would be funded by a 4% additional state tax on the portion of the filer's annual income over $1 million. Importantly, it only applies to the taxable personal income over $1 million, so it's not a business tax. It would be a transformative investment in our future and help keep Massachusetts globally competitive. I'd estimate that the successful small business owners I know either support this initiative for all the reasons I've outlined or accept it as the reality of doing business in a state the caliber of Massachusetts. Importantly, small businesses that aren't paying their founders $1 million plus won't be directly impacted but will benefit from the advantages of these investments. I'm speaking to the Municipal Council because, as a small business person, I want to provide a perspective in explaining how this actually creates a real advantage for all of us, benefiting owners and employees alike. I urge our local elected leaders to support this initiative.
Thank you. Good timing. Next is Deborah Mosley.
Good evening, all. Deborah Mosley, Merrimack Street. There is no power so great than a community discovering what it cares about. Margaret Wheatley. As a parent and a student who graduated, having a child, As a teacher and a taxpayer, I support the Fair Share Amendment, and this is why. My vision for this new tax revenue can help fix areas that need eminent attention. Although we are blessed with a special education system here, we are so seriously underfunded for mental health services across the board on all levels of the curriculum. Seeking, recruiting, and hiring diverse teachers can help in this effort. With my own daughter doing time here in the schools and halls of the schools here, what I have found to be of great discrepancy is helping our brighter students achieve the same level of time on task and attention in the middle schools as well as those who struggle. Hiring more teachers to lower teacher-student ratio will help this enormously. Fair Share can help kickstart with a myriad of our after-school programs adjusted to help every level of students' interest and their intellect. It will help students regain self-confidence, well-being, and overall uplift the mental health of this whole community. The Fair Share can provide affordable colleges, community colleges free of charge, that they too there will learn skillful jobs with the promise of bright futures in good paying positions. This in itself will help to reduce the weight-bearing debt our children are graduating with from colleges today, especially if they should be transferring to a 4-year institution.
Your 2 minutes is up. I'm going to wrap it up real quick.
This Fair Share will reach beyond this community's will be affected profoundly. Rehiring educators that will provide critical services to students in higher ed, counselors, adjunct professors, fully funded to help provide wider curriculum selections. This amendment will be both short and long-term economic gain for all of us.
Thank you.
Newbury Power, as Margaret Wheatley expressed, will discover that it cares most studiously for our children and those we educate in this jewel of the city, Newburyport.
Thank you, Ms. Mousley. Sarah Lord.
Hi, everyone. I live in Amesbury, Massachusetts, but my business is on 40 Merrimack Street. I am here I'm here representing Pride in the Port. I am looking to have an event on In Street as well as Market Square. So if you guys have any questions, I'd love to answer them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Jane Snow. Okay. Renee Ames.
Good evening. My name is Renee Ames. I live at 17 Forester Street, and I'm here tonight to ask every counselor to vote in support of the NYS land on Low Street. I have been a longtime resident of the city. This issue of where will youth services live has been bounced around from year to year. I think it's time to put it to rest and give the amazing youth services department a real home. I am also a teacher in the city. I've taught many students in this room, and I have the pleasure of teaching at the Bresnahan School. And I wanted to share with you the difference that it makes to work in a building that is functional, because I used to teach at the old Bresnahan, where my room was moldy and smelly, and the kids were crammed, and there was not enough outlets. I now teach in a building that is beautiful and bright, welcoming, and it allows me to teach in a better way. It allows me to meet the needs of kids in ways that make a big difference. So the building that you work in impacts the quality of the service that you do. The work that Youth Services has been able to do in the last 17 years is absolutely amazing. As a parent, they have impacted the lives of my children in ways that I didn't understand before they became the age of youth services. So I'm incredibly grateful to them as an organization, but I also expect, or hope, I guess I should say, that the counselors will realize the value that they bring to our city, the gift that they give to our community, and give them a building that meets the needs of the kids and allows this program to thrive instead of just exist. They thrive even without a building, which is amazing, but they deserve better. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike Brennan.
Thank you. Mike Brennan, 16 Eagle Street, Newburyport. I'm here tonight to ask you to suspend any further funding for NYS. Over the past couple months, there have been some good faith concerns raised with some of the programming that NYS is putting on. And the responses from this body have been very mixed in terms of that programming, and kind of indicated a high level of confusion in terms of where oversight for NYS lies. So some members of the council have responded either directly to some citizens or in the newspaper that these particular programs that are of concern were it was okay because no taxpayer dollars were being spent on a particular program. Other members of the council were quoted in publications as saying, the NYS is a fully funded department of the city, just like every other department, and therefore, of course, it's under the guise of to be fully scrutinized by the public and by city government and overseen by city government, just like any other department. And the mayor has kind of added to the confusion as well, because he keeps citing that, hey, these programs are okay no matter what anybody thinks, or if you have a disagreement, because there's no taxpayer money being being provided to the NYS for this one individual program. So I just think with that level of confusion, I don't know how you can fulfill your fiduciary responsibility as a body to the city of Newburyport by continuing to spend money when we don't even know who's responsible for oversight of NYS. And what that results in is, it gives mixed signals to the employees of NYS as well. And, they, I think, sometimes are operating in a manner that is not clear that they know who they work for. A recent example of that is one of, a citizen asked a question and her emails were blocked.
Your 2 minutes is up.
Okay, so thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Jake Ames. Maybe it's Jack Ames.
Yep, Jack. Hi, I'm Jack Ames. I live at 17 Forster Street, and NYS has really gone through a large journey. And one of the things that my health teacher has taught me is that being resilient is a really great trait for anybody. And I know that NYS has been really resilient, and that has allowed them to be successful after a building's been lost, and they still keep pushing. They got back up after they fell down. Being at NYS really just has really great personalities that help it be a successful place, and so losing a building, is a big thing for them because they have to find a lot of alternatives. So if we want NYS to keep being resilient, then I think we just need to be able to give them a building and give them a space, because I know from experience that NYS can provide great programs and support for all the kids, not even just in Massachusetts. Some kids are from New Hampshire, I think. So I think that's great.
Thank you, Jake. And last is Ian Cohen.
Hi, I'm Ian, and NYS is very important to the kids of Newburyport because it just provides, like, just after school can be very stressful for a lot of students, and NYS offers like event, like something to look forward to after school to push them through. And that's all I have to say because I'm nervous.
Well done. And you're at Myrtle Ave?
Yep.
Thank you. All right, and that's it for public comment.
Excuse me. I'd like to say 1 minute of...
I'm sorry,
I know
your
I'm not
name?
on the agenda, but if you would, I'd appreciate it.
Your name is not on the list, sir.
I know. I'm asking for 1 minute, please. I'm probably the oldest townie in here.
Okay, 1 minute, sir. You need to step up.
Thank you. My name's Larry Russell. I grew up on Kent Street. I live on Turkey Hill Road right now. 6 weeks ago, I went to visit a friend, and he threw this newspaper at me, introduced me to this event that's going to happen Friday night. I was like taken aback. I have 5 kids, I have 10 grandchildren, and no one at the Newburyport Youth Services that I know would have any contact with that kind of person. And I know Andy, she's done a great job. But you can't let kids be introduced to that sort of, I won't even say what it is in my opinion. And I don't care who you love, when, where, or why. I have 5 kids that have black fathers, so don't tell me about being black and all that stuff. I played with 3 beautiful people in the South. My first coach was Fletcher Carter. He grew up on Dove Street. I know all about it. I'm not telling you what to do, but I am telling you, when I grew up in this town, it wasn't this beautiful mecca of millionaires to come to town. Keep the youth services the way it's supposed to be, not the way this event, is being sponsored, as I understand it, by the Newburyport Youth Services. They don't exist together.
Thank you, sir.
And please, take the time, back off for a month or 2, whatever it takes. Make sure you do the right thing.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, mayor's comment.
Hey everyone, nice to see so many residents out tonight. I'm just going to read a statement tonight. I sent out my mayor's report earlier today, so I'm just going to give this a go. I think we can all agree the past few weeks in city council chambers have been difficult. It's been tough to witness the frustration and anger that you're all experiencing. And while the optimist in me sees the heightened emotions as a testament to the deep love we all share for this wonderful city, when these heightened emotions lead to a verbiage that causes harm to you and the greater public, I cannot sit idly by. First, I need to say in no uncertain terms that the casual use of the term teenage suicide is not only dangerous, but it's irresponsible. To insinuate that a public official would be responsible for such a tragic act due to a vote is unacceptable. And it sends a dangerous message to those who may be struggling with mental health. If you are experiencing feelings of depression and need help, please call 1-800-273-8255. It is a priority of my administration to foster a supportive and inclusive environment for all residents. I have your back. To that end, my administration is creating a mental health task force to build on the work already being done in NYS, Newburyport Public Schools, and city partners. Please get in touch with my office if you are interested in getting involved. We absolutely take this issue seriously and ask that we all treat it with urgency, but also with the sensitivity it deserves. Second, I support each and every member of this council. I want to work with you all. I want to share with you my vision for the city and collaborate with you on all the various initiatives my office is bringing forth. We cannot do that without trust and transparency. If the default reaction to every effort is met with negativity and suspicion, we will not be able to best serve the residents of the city. We can do better. My office has been working hard with you to provide you with all the information you need to make these decisions that are best for your constituents. I look forward to seeing the council move forward with a number of important measures tonight, including 2 votes on 59 Low Street. The first is to allocate funding to hire an architect to complete a conceptual design and cost estimate for this potential NYS home at this site. This vote is critical because it allows us to move forward with the process of designing the renovation of the existing building and addition of a modular gym at this location. The architect's work will take approximately 6 weeks and would give us an idea how much the project would cost and what it might look like. This would allow us to ask City Council to appropriate the funds to move on to a full design and bid documents. The second vote tonight is one of 2 that will require a supermajority, or 8 of 11 City Councilors to approve. While the final vote will be for the funding appropriation of this project, which will come at a later date, the one being discussed tonight is for the zoning amendment to allow a community center use in this area. Ideally, this zoning amendment request would have occurred after we had put together a design concept and budget. However, the current sequencing, led by the City Council, brings this item to vote now. It is my hope that this zoning change passes. We are working with City Council and the community to build consensus around the vision for NYS at 59 Low, and I am confident that we are on track to create a plan and budget that the City Council can support unanimously. I want to be very clear that if it does not pass tonight, that does not mean the end of the 59 Low Street project. It will need to go back to the planning board and come back before the council in the next few months. As long as we can continue the rest of the project, including designs and cost estimates, which will also be voted on tonight, this will not delay the project, and we will still push to do all we can do to open the facility by next spring. I'm saying this now tonight to be as clear as I can to the residents about what's at stake with the votes tonight. Regardless of how all you decide to vote on this issue tonight, I hope we can all agree to bring the temperature down and bring the level of respect for our federal citizens up. Divisiveness is not productive. It does nothing to further the progress of the city, and my office will not take part in it. We are striving for unity and cooperation. Unity does not mean voting the same way on every measure. That cannot be our standard. Unity must mean committing to shared values and making a good faith effort to listen to one another and find compromises to reach common goals. Collaboration is how difficult things get done. I am here to support you and to provide you with all the factual information you need that supports my vision for the city of Newburyport, a vision which is also supported by the voting members of this city. I look forward to a more productive future. Thank you.
Questions from the mayor? Councilor Vogel?
Thank you, Council President. Thank you, Mayor. That was well spoken. So I do have a question, though, if I may. I obviously have been a serious advocate of this effort to pass this zoning. And in your report to us, I have a question about your statement that you indicate ideally the zoning amendment request would have occurred.
Point of order, please. I'm recused from this. I cannot be a part of these conversations because I'm recused. Correct?
This is just.
I'm gonna step away at this point. I apologize for interrupting you, Councilor Vogel.
Thank you.
I'm recused. I just don't want to.
Okay.
Thank you. Again, you write, ideally the zoning amendment request would have occurred after we had put together a design concept and budget. This befuddles me just a little bit, and I'm wondering if there's something in this whole process that I missed, and if I had, perhaps you could provide me with an answer. The way that I understand the zoning, what we're doing simply is we're allowing a use. And to do that, to go through those motions, doesn't require the city to spend, well, very little money, maybe some advertisement, and certainly there's a tremendous amount of time and effort on everybody's part. But it doesn't cost anything to the city.
Are you asking me or you tell me?
Well, either one. I mean, would you agree? It doesn't cost anything except for some newspaper advertisements. But what I don't understand is, how is it that ideally the zoning should come after the fact that we're proposing to spend $30,000 or two-thirds of that $30,000 on a design concept when we don't even know that the zoning will allow that design? So I'm wondering if you could, did I miss something?
No, I think you hit it right on the head. You all set?
Well, you're saying ideally the zoning would occur before.
Absolutely.
Or after. You said occurred after we had put together a design concept. But the design concept costs money.
Yes.
Right.
So that's the vote tonight hopefully you vote to pass for the money tonight to go to the design concept.
But we're going to pass this, you want us to pass this design concept money without knowing whether or not the zoning will be approved.
I want to see the zoning passed. We need 8 out of 11 votes for 2 big issues with 59 Lone Street. In my can I speak?
Yeah,
Mr.
yeah.
Spoke? Sure. Okay, great. You can sit down if you want to, if you like. And,
Don't yield.
So my process, and again, this isn't coming from the mayor's office, but my process would have been, let's have a consensus building on what the NYS building looks like. So if we go through the design concept and then we come to you with a cost estimate and a design concept for the building and get consensus around that issue, then I think the zoning falls into place after that. But I think we need to agree on the building itself and where that funding is going to come from and what that looks like. And that's what I mean by that. I think if I was doing the process, it comes out of sequence from my order of things as far as how we would do that.
Councilor Vogel, you haven't yielded?
And I'm sorry to stand here and to debate you, Mayor. Ideally, the zoning amendment request would have occurred after we had put together the design. So you're asking us to spend money on designing a building that we don't even know whether or not the zoning use will be accepted and passed.
You are correct.
Okay.
That's it. Absolutely correct.
So spend the money and then hope the zoning gets passed.
Spend the money, and then hopefully we're going to work together and build a consensus around the design project, and then we'll pass the zoning. I hope we pass the zoning tonight. If we have the votes, let's pass it tonight.
Well, I certainly do too, but I'm
like
doubtful.
I said, I mean, again, if it was coming from the mayor's office, I think it's out of sequence. I think we need to build consensus and agree around a plan for NYS and come up with a budget to move forward. And then again, if we've agreed on the plan, of course we're going to agree on the zoning that goes along with it.
Well, as one of 11 holders of the purse strings, I respectfully disagree. I will find it very difficult to spend money on a design concept for a building on a site that I don't even know will be zoned for that building. So respectfully, thank you for your time.
All right, thank you for
Councilor
bringing that up.
Khan, you had your hand up? Okay. Further questions? All right, thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great meeting.
So, Clerk Jones, do we want to make the motion?
President, I think it's in order at this point for if one wishes to move anything up on the agenda, in my understanding they do, that the motion would be to waive the rules and move it up.
Yes, I'd like to make,
Councilor Preston?
I'd like to make a motion to move planning and development to the front of the agenda.
I'm sorry, would that be all of planning and development or just ordinance 105?
Yeah, let's just go with two. Is it
I mean, no, 105.
agenda?
105.
105.
Okay.
Yes, 105.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, so we have on the floor a motion to waive the rules and move ordinance 105 to this location on the agenda.
Councilor Preston?
Yeah, I just, I think we have a lot of people in attendance tonight that are particularly wondering what's going to happen with youth services at Low Street. So in the interest of everyone's time, we're probably going to be here for a long time tonight. Why not move this to the beginning so that they can at least go home and have a nice evening?
Okay. Further comments? Councilor Zede?
Oh, leaving.
I'm sorry? Oh, geez, sorry.
Councilor Zede?
Thank you. I don't support this motion. I think we should take the things in order. Seems to be a theme for the evening tonight. Budget and Finance has several matters related to youth services as well, and they could be taken just as well first.
I know, I unmuted.
I'm not clear on what the argument is here. If you'd like to do them, I'd be happy to do Budget and Finance right now, if you'd like to take up the matters that are there. If this argument holds, then that argument will hold as well.
Okay, well, we still have to do one at a time. So Councilor Preston. So the motion on the floor, correct me if I'm, we need to waive the rules. Mr. Jones?
Yes, President, it's to waive the rules and to move ordinance 105 to this location.
Okay, so roll call.
Okay, on the motion to waive, Councilor Wright?
Yes.
Councilor Zede?
No.
Councilor Cameron?
Yes.
Councilor Donahue?
Yes.
Counselor Khan.
Yes.
Counselor Lane is
Recused.
recused. Thank you. Counselor McCauley.
Yes.
Counselor Preston.
Yes.
Counselor Vogel.
Yes.
Counselor Wallace.
Yes.
And Council President.
Yes.
By a vote of 9 yes, 1 recused, and 1 motion passes. So ordinance 105 is on the floor.
I'd like to make a motion, if I may, to divide and take up
Counselor
use.
Vogel, do you want to
Oh, sorry, sorry. Motion to divide, and if I may, and take up the use 216 and the footnote I as well, and then possibly at the same time table the other two pieces of the order and put them back, put them on the table, and we can take them up later. So that would be on ordinance 105. So simply dividing out this particular, the 216 use, tabling the other two, and then we can take them up later on. Does that make sense?
As a point of clarification, you mean to table the rest of the ordinance?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm asking, but I guess I'm filled.
I appreciate the guidance.
So that's got a
Wait a
first.
second.
Second.
Point of order, Madam President.
Yes.
Clerk, can you just explain the voting path that will then take?
I can try. So it will put use 216, which is the community center, and the footnote related thereto on the floor at that point. The rest of the ordinance is tabled until when and if you wish to take it off, or anyone wishes to take it off. And then because that use 216 is on the floor, then and motion for whatever, approve, refer back, whatever, is in order. That's the way I see it.
So just to follow up, so essentially you're making this 2 ordinances.
Correct.
Okay, and you want 216 in one and the rest in the rest.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Counselor Cameron.
I think also we would need to add the section, in further that section 7B, Newburyport zoning code entitled parking requirements, that those parking requirements are part of the community center 216.
Right.
I think that's a very good point. Is that?
Yeah, whatever is related to 216, if that's general enough or specific enough.
So, and further, that would also be voting on right now. It says community center. That's related to 216 in and of itself. And then the second, I assume, agrees with that, obviously.
Yes.
Okay, so the motion on the floor then is to divide the question, including 216 footnote I and the last paragraph, which is use 216 parking requirements.
Thank you. Full transparency, right? The other two pieces aren't necessarily as controversial as the 216. So the idea is just to put it out there, put it on the floor, let's debate it, let's go through it, and then later on in the evening we can take up the rest of it. Very simple, very straightforward. Thank you.
Counselor McCauley.
Yeah, Council President, I guess I'm looking for a bit of clarification in terms of splitting it. Would we take up the table matter later tonight? Because there was a resident that wants to proceed with their business along the way, right? So is that the plan? Yeah, thank you.
I think that makes sense.
Yep. Further questions? All right, so the motion on the floor.
Motion on the floor is to divide and table. They both require majority votes.
Simple majority.
Simple majority.
Okay, so roll call.
On the motion to divide and table, Councilor Wright.
No.
Councilor Zeid.
No.
Councilor Cameron.
Yes.
Councilor Donahue.
Yes.
Councilor Khan.
Yes.
Councilor McCauley.
No.
Councilor Preston.
Yes.
Councilor Vogel.
Yes.
Councilor Wallace.
Yes.
Councilor Shan.
Yes.
So 4 noes means that we don't, I'm sorry, we need a simple majority. It passes.
Okay. So,
That would be a motion to approve.
Counselor Cameron?
Making a motion to approve the ordinance as divided, so the 216 community center use.
Second.
Discussion.
Thank you.
Counselor Cameron.
Thank you, President. Just in case anyone thought I was texting earlier, I wasn't. I was making a few notes on this.
We believe you.
This has been, for me, a 4-month journey. For the rest of you, a longer journey, which involved purchase of that property, 57, 59. I'll never get the number right because I have 57 in my head. We're all very familiar with youth services. I want to echo what Mayor Reardon said. To members of the community who are out there both advocating for this to move forward and those who want to take more time on it. I don't know every counselor here as well as I'd like to at some point in my life, but people are coming from a place of integrity, effort, understanding, hard work, and we don't always agree. We're probably pretty close 90% of the time. Other times there are various either process or content disagreements. But whatever the outcome at this particular juncture of NYS's road, personally, I'm not going to hold anybody it against anybody if they don't vote the way I'm going to vote. That said, I'm going to say something unusual in that I agreed with every word that came out of school committee member Brian Callahan's mouth when he gave public comment. And I hope Brian's listening. Oh, there he is. This is just probably the easiest part. The hard part's going to be the design and the budgeting. To echo Mayor Reardon, who again has been supportive of moving this along. And he talked of the transparency that we've gotten from his administration on this issue, from Andy Egmont around their needs, around why this is a good location, from Kim Turner, as we're now looking for money to start the initial phase of design and sort of figuring out how much this would cost and if we can afford it. There's been a lot of transparency there. So whatever the issues were with the previous administration, I wasn't on the last 2 terms. I think we're in a different place. I would hope that the council would show the trust to the mayor and help move this along. So, somebody years ago said that the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. This, to me, whatever your take on sequencing, and I could very much make a case, as Councilor Vogel was earlier, that why would we want to start appropriating money if we don't, in some ways the highest hurdle, and maybe the easiest hurdle, but the highest hurdle is the supermajority needed on the zoning. Why am I going to vote for $30,000 when then we're going to have to argue about the zoning down the road? So I think, changing the underlying zoning makes sense. That was discussed at the very end of the last council. It was discussed early on in this council. An affirmative vote here, no matter what I want, if I'm in the affirmative on the zoning, if this comes to a place where we can't afford it, and I don't know what that number is, but there's a point where we only have so much money and the mayor doesn't have a printing press, nor do we, where we would need to say no. And I would feel that would be unfortunate, but I would have no qualms voting against something if this is a very big ticket. Again, I don't know what that number is, so I'm not looking to lock myself in. So I think we should move ahead at this juncture. Otherwise, all the reasons for delay that have been mentioned, and some are newer in the argument. The delay was just to understand a little bit better, get the definition of community center better understood. We had questions about spot zoning that I think Director Port answered very well. This is a public benefit. It's in the public welfare. This isn't some spot zoning for a particular developer or owner or business. This is for us. So I think that public use is really important to remember. And in terms of other issues that have been conflated with this, I know we've talked about a divorce with the Brown School, and and somehow the parking requirements here are getting mentioned, and with, you know, the possible ramifications for the Brown School and the gym. I think we argue that out when we get to those matters. I think it just creates confusion and complexity when we don't need it. This is a pretty straight shot as far as I'm concerned. You know, it's up to the mayor to decide where the Parks Department is going to be, if there's a conflict with the possible use for youth services. The administration can work that out. We, as 11 people, we're not well suited to make those sort of decisions easily. If we were deciding on where to go out to eat, that may take months. If we were, you know, there are decisions. There's a reason why we have an executive and why we have our role. So, you know, what we're really supposed to do is, you know, not micromanage the mayor, but we look at the big ticket items with the budget and legislative components, and zoning is certainly under that. We're supposed to help good things happen and stop bad things from happening. I think this is a little bit of a step towards making a good thing happen. I hope wherever you've been on this issue that you'll take this to heart. If there's something, you know, that would change your mind, I'd like to hear about it. To have gone, I'm not into the sunk cost argument, but we put a lot of time into this, and just to kick the can down the road and do it again, where again, I think the budget and the design conversations are really what we should be spending our time on. So again, I'm in favor of this. I think it makes a lot of sense. I wasn't all that bought into it necessarily when I started on this council, but the more I've thought of it, if we want to get a good quality youth services in a good, viable location, right across from the school. The school's across the street, and there are other similar, they're not municipal purposes, they're not community centers, but River Valley Charter School is in the same district, same neighborhood, the Bright Horizons the Bright Horizons Youth Center, childcare, and those sort of uses. So I think it's a good fit, and I hope we can move forward on it tonight. Thank you.
Councilor McCauley.
Yeah, I'd like to make an amendment on the uses. I'd like to make a change on 216 from under I1 from permit to special permit, and for R2 from permit to special permit, with the planning board being the hearing authority on that. And
Second. Thank you. Discussion.
Thank you, Council President. So in doing so, I2 would then be consistent across the board for all uses that we have in that park. R2, I'm not sure that we do have a true definition of community center, if it's only municipal, or if somebody who wants to run the beneficial program that's not a municipal program can run a community center. We want to at least have some oversight in terms of doing that. That's my rationale for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion?
Just to clarify.
Yeah.
Sure.
So that's a motion to amend, Counselor?
Yes.
That would change I1 to an SP and I2 to an SP.
No, I1 to an SP and R2 to an SP.
R2.
Yep.
I'm sorry, I1.
And R2.
R2, okay. Yeah, I know, just people were talking at the same time, so I thought it might have said R1, which they
All right.
didn't.
Further discussion? Councilor Vogel?
Well, thank you. Pardon my ignorance. Maybe if not the sponsor or the amending counselor, but maybe the planning director maybe could provide just a little bit of clarity for those of us that don't have all that knowledge.
I don't believe the planning director's on.
And we know, yeah. He said he was going to be, I thought.
Don't think so.
Sam, he would have spoken up. Or perhaps maybe the amending counselor could provide more detail? I don't know.
Councilor McCauley?
I'm not sure what he wants me to say.
So I think the question he's looking for is to explain why the planning board's supposed to be the special permit granting authority.
Yeah.
Well, the planning board is, okay, so in all other sections of I1, it's an SP. A use is an SP for the most part. It's not permitted or an SP. And the planning board has stated that they would like to be the designated special permit granting authority. That's what they said they wanted to do, as opposed to going to the ZBA. So I think it's consistent throughout the category. We have everything that's an SP under a special permit from the planning board, and we have this one thing that is permitted. I think that's inconsistent. So my recommendation would be to make it special permit from the planning board, consistent with all the other lines that we see here.
Thank you. Further questions, comments?
I wish I understood that further.
All right, so vote on the amendment.
Can I just make
Councilor
a comment?
Cameron.
So I don't know if that will change anybody's ultimate vote. That aside, I hope it does. I'm good with this amendment. These are very few, and I was trying to look up the definition of of community center, and I think it is municipally operated, so it would have to be owned by the city. So a nonprofit or a for-profit could not just plunk some sort of a youth center, senior center in. It needs to be municipally operated. But I think having that extra oversight. I mean, there's probably only going to be one of these. I suppose there could be something at the Brown. Having the planning board's involvement, I think, would be helpful. So I'd support the amendment.
Cameron. Further discussion? All right, vote on the amendment.
So vote on the amendment to change R2 and I1 to SPs, which, as I read it, really just adds footnote J to those two uses. Correct?
Correct.
Roll call.
Roll call.
On the motion to amend, Councilor Wright.
Yes.
Councilor Zede.
Yes.
Councilor Cameron.
Yes.
Councilor Donahue.
Yes.
Councilor Khan.
Yes.
Councilor McCauley.
Yes.
Councilor Preston.
Yes.
Councilor Vogel.
Yes.
Councilor Wallace.
Yes.
Councilor Shan.
Yes.
Motion passes. We have the motion to approve as amended on the floor.
Further discussion? All right,
I've said my piece.
Councilor Zede.
Thank you, President. So I just kind of have a bunch of things that I'd like to say. It's always hard with these run-ups to these votes because you think about it so much and then you're finally there and you have to say something, and you've had all these great speeches in the shower and then you have to do it in real life. So, I guess here are my general thoughts. First thing is on the process. I have to express my frustration with the process and the sequencing, and I understand that there can be a respectful disagreement about that and in what order we should do it. But with that being said, I mean, even the vote tonight to divide the question, in committee and all the discussions, those two pieces were glued together as though they were inseparable, the portion about the fish and the portion about youth services or a community center, to the point that, it was sort of argued that you're going to be holding up a business if you don't. And then sort of unceremoniously, we just all of a sudden break these two things up that were supposedly unbreakable. It feels like brinksmanship to me, and that's been a challenge throughout this entire process over the last many years, is that we seem to always want to go right up to the line, and sometimes we even go over the line or drive the car off the bridge, and that's a little bit frustrating for me as we try and just address what the actual question is. I'm not going to be supporting this zoning amendment tonight. There are a couple of reasons why. First of all, with, again, respectful disagreement, but I don't think that a yes or a no vote really changes the trajectory of this project at this time. To me, following on the heels of the purchase of 59 Low Street in January, the next logical step was to prove out what a project looks like at Low Street, both in terms of cost as well as in terms of design. The way I read the purchase of 59 Low Street was it was the compromise. The compromise was some councilors had to acquiesce to the idea that there is potential for youth services at Low Street, and others had to acquiesce to the concept that maybe it's not going to work out for one reason or another, and that the next logical step was to prove that out either way. And to me, It seems to me that there may be some intimation here that if this doesn't pass, that the $30,000 is in jeopardy. That just seemed to be a thread that I heard, which would be a little bit unfortunate. I'm going to save my comments for that one because that'll come up separately at its own time. But to me, of all the things we've done since January 31st, that's the one thing that makes sense to me is let's go out and spend some money to get the answer to what does the project look like, what does the project cost. Now, how does that tie into zoning? I've been around long enough that, and this wouldn't have been intuitive to me when I started, but sometimes zoning and a project are actually the same thing. So Waterfront West is a great example of that. The zoning doesn't just stand alone. The project is the zoning, and the zoning is the project. And so here, the project is undefined. At this point, no one can say what it cost, what it may look like, how tall it may be, how big it may be, what the dimensions of that are going to be. This ordinance has no dimensional controls, for example, and it'd be impossible to try and amend because nobody knows what it is that we're talking about. And I think in this case, to make the argument that we're just generically zoning an area for a potential use for a theoretical future idea is kind of nonsensical. We are endeavoring to do this for a specific project on a specific timeline, and so therefore, to me, it stands to reason that that project be defined before zoning get done. Second thing is, I've heard from a lot of folks that, we want to send a message. We want to send a message to the community that we value NYS, and this is one way that we can do it. The problem with that is that every step we take without knowing all the details is a little bit unfair to residents. Without being able to back up and say, hey, this is happening and that's why we're doing it. We're simply just throwing things out there saying, okay, don't worry, these counselors support NYS and these ones don't because they're unwilling or unable to vote on a specific amendment or a specific ordinance. The process has to proceed in order. Next thing I want to talk about is potential harm. So I've heard from other folks that there's no harm. What's the harm in doing this? To me, probably the biggest reason why I will not support this tonight is from what I've learned over the last 5 to 7 years on this specific effort. In 2017, we did an RFP. The former administration did an RFP without any input from the council. It ended in failure, processed on out of sequence. In 2018, we funded $65,000 of taxpayer money for a feasibility study with, again, no consensus on what the cost should be or what even the needs were or what the budget might look like. It ended in failure. And then in 2020, we just went around the horn about purchasing 59 Low Street, and again, we did not choose to heed the concerns of some counselors about doing full due diligence on the property, and that ended in failure in 2020. We continue on to the process now where we finally seem to have something going here where we want to spend some money to figure out some of these answers to an 8% design level so that everybody can get comfortable with it. This does not have that same level of consensus on it, and so I don't see how one can look at that and think that bad process doesn't lead to bad outcomes. There is the potential for harm here. Residents could get the wrong idea. We could zone it in a way that actually can't support a project that we may later propose. Yeah, sure, you could say, well, we'll just amend it. But actually, the biggest thing I've learned from all of those previous efforts is not just the money we wasted, it's the time. And that's what I think you hear from a lot of residents is how could it be taking this much time? Well, every time we do one of these efforts, we waste in some cases a year, in some cases a couple years, and we don't have anything to show for it. And so for this, if I had my druthers, I would continue this. I think it's a start for a proposal. We can continue it until we have the answer. The zoning and the project, to me, are equivalent, and eventually they will both be defined, and then we will have other tough questions. I agree on that, on funding, whether we're going to fund it out of the budget, whether we're going to consider a debt exclusion, whatever we're going to do. And if anybody thinks they know the answers to those questions, I'd love to know, because I don't know yet what I don't know. The best, in my opinion, one of the best speakers tonight was the child who spoke about resiliency. And so I've stood up here, I've taken lashings many nights. I will take them again tonight, but I'm going to do what I think is right and what will make me comfortable and able to sleep at night, which is I want to follow the process. I want to do it in order with due respect to my colleagues who I understand, and just for them to say that, yes, we are asking to spend money without the underlying zoning being completed, because to me, the zoning and the project are the same thing. The project is the zoning is the project. They go part and parcel, and logic would have it, to me, that they will all converge at a central point when at least the majority of the questions have been asked and answered. And at this point, if I get stopped on State Street and somebody says, how much is it going to be and what does it look like? I don't know the answers to those questions, so I don't know how I can rezone it at this time. Thank you.
Counselor Khan.
Great. Thank you, Council President. So I know I've heard a little bit, we talk a lot about the sequencing. And one of the things that I always kind of look back on is we are 11 people elected to serve this city with different perspectives, different experiences. But while I hesitate to say this, we all have our motivations, right? We're elected, we're politicians. Motivations can come in different forms, and they could come from a good place. So we don't know, what drives us, what we want to see happen. I think everyone here has the best intention. All I could really rely on is look to those people who guide us in terms of not having motivation. So I look at places like the planning board, I look at the planning department, I look at the administration. I have to together think about the actions we're taking and the outcome we want to achieve. Are we bringing in people outside of ourselves to give us that perspective, to give us that guidance? So when it came to this zoning change of use, the first thing we heard throughout the time of purchasing Low Street was, if that's going to be considered for youth services, that table of use needs to be updated. And it wasn't from my colleagues on the council I heard that from. That was really from folks involved in the planning department. That's what I heard during one of the joint planning board meetings. So it wasn't really coming from us, our body, as we were trying to tackle a very complex issue of what's going to go at 57 Low Street at the time and now 59 Low Street. So really my desire to go along and kind of move in this, what I think is a logical next step, regardless of what we might all feel about sequencing, I just paid attention to the conversations of others. And the other thing that I learned during that time is throughout the change of the zoning table of use was the public joint hearing. We post that. There's a process done to change our zoning. It's not done in a silo and it's not done in a vacuum. It's a very public process. And throughout that public process, nothing came up about sequencing and nothing came up about this is not the time to do it. And so I feel like it's one of those things where then I have to step back and say, well, that's our role now to bring in, after we hear from external sources and the joint hearings and the public process, what our action's going to be after all that happens. So for me, I respect that everyone might have a different perspective of maybe how things should be happening. But at this point, we did go through, from what it seems like, from the sponsors and from the process of vetting that table of use change, we followed all those steps. And to be honest, my main reason for supporting this does have to do with the fact that we are going to spend money to actually consider designs of a youth service center. And I'm not going to hold my vote, nor did I hear anyone say they were going to hold their vote on that. I think people pretty much know that that needs to be done, because we are supporting a permanent home for youth services, which I really strongly, strongly believe in. I also just want to, talk a little bit too about, what in my idea of understanding, I think what was some of the concerns about Low Street for a community center, which were really good points that were brought up last year, related to the wetlands delineation, the possibility of stormwater management. Did the site look like it was even capable of having a community center? And we put that into the purchase language around 59 Low Street. And when we did that, one of the things that were added as a condition was that we have the engineering department go there and do some type of an engineering site plan review, which they did. And this body here listened to a presentation about that looked at that location and said, yes, something can fit here. And to me, that in terms of the viability led to that table of use being then amended to include a community center. So I think in terms of sequencing, to me, and again, I'm only speaking from my perspective, I think it was followed. So I will be supporting this next step. I do think it's supposed to be an easy next step, and I hope it can be, but I do know we have some tough conversations because none of us know what that design will look like. But at least this one here, to me, makes sense, and I will be supporting it. Thank you.
Further discussion. Councilor Preston.
Yes, thank you, Council President. So, I think there are viable arguments in either direction in terms of the sequencing here. And frankly, I find it very unfortunate the mayor has deemed one process better than the other because frankly, neither is right and neither is wrong. However, I will be supporting this tonight because I feel the zoning is just a piece to move this forward. I feel like the hurdles that we have in the future around the budget certainly give us the opportunity to create stopgaps for if this process or project gets out of control. And then, you know, the counselor from Ward 1 spoke about sort of that zoning and the project themselves are part and parcel, is the word that he used, of each other, and that it would be nonsensical to do zoning here prior to understanding what the project is. Yet way back in May 2019, 3 years ago this month, we put together Brown School, well, a previous council put together the Brown School zoning, which was sponsored by the Ward 1 counselor. Yet, as we sit here today, we do not have a viable project for the Brown School. So in that instance, we were able to put zoning in place without a viable project. I don't understand why we can't put zoning in place without a viable project at Low Street. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Preston. Further discussion? Councilor, so is there anyone else online? All right, we'll go back around one more time.
Jenny.
Wait, Councilor Donahue.
Sorry, Councilor Donahue.
Did you call any?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. It's a little hard to hear you, President Shan, but thank you. I just wanted to add my support to the at-large counselor's comments and really echo what Councilor Khan had to say, to be specific of which at-large counselor, sorry. And also to just add that, you know, knowing that we do have an example to set and sort of opportunity here to really show how we can work together as an elected body and show that we are listening to our youth and, you know, consider that number over 70% of our youth that don't feel that they're heard or valued by the adults in society. I mean, that's pretty significant. And I think this really would go a long way to show them that we are listening. And this is on our radar, and that this is what we're all working towards. You know, we can argue a little bit about the sequencing and what, you know, ideally, which order things could or could not have gotten in. But I don't think that changes where we are tonight. And where we are tonight is in a room, if I'm not mistaken, full of our youth supporting this grand need. And I really value the fact that they were brave enough to come tonight and to sit through all of this and listen to all of us, you know, sort of pick apart and debate what, you know, we think is maybe wrong or right with this zoning change. But, you know, I'm going to be voting yes in support of the kids in this room, in support of the kids at home watching, in support of the kids that desperately need the services of youth services, accessible to the school. You know, I, for one, just want to add that I've never been able to utilize youth services because of its inaccessibility to get my son to it. Having it across from the school that he attends would change that entirely, and he would benefit. So, you know, part of it is personal, but more than that, I am looking at this holistically, and I think it's the right thing to do. I think it's the cognizant thing to do, and I don't see any harm in it. I just don't see any harm, because if it turns out after the design phase, after, you know, figuring out funding and all that, that youth services can't go there, that doesn't mean that something else can't. And, you know, it's not, it just, there's no harm, no foul. So I'd really like to see us come together and get to that 8 that we need to pass this amendment. And I hope that my fellow counselors will all really heavily consider the needs of our kids right now in our community, our very own children. Thank you. I yield.
Counselor Wright and then Counselor Wallace. Counselor Wright.
He's muted.
You're muted, Mark. All right, we'll come back to Counselor Wallace.
Thank you, President Shand. Yeah, I have a lot of emotions about this. I mean, it's a very emotional issue. I did vote no for it to come out of committee because intellectually, I know it's not the right time for it to be done. It's not even a sequencing thing. I'm not sure that we have even the parking ratios correct because we don't know the programming needs. I always had a feeling that the zoning would be no problem once we have a consensus on the project. I am very, very excited that we have this concept design coming up that hopefully will pass. And I'm very excited that we are finally on a path of designing a project. After 2 years, how many years, we are on the right path. Emotionally, yeah, it's been a tough couple weeks. Yeah, it's hard when you get falsely accused and blamed for things that you know aren't true. But at the same time, like it's not about me. It's about what we're showing our kids. You know, nobody wants to be bullied. Nobody wants to be told that their opinions don't matter. Every opinion matters. Every child matters. They don't have to be the loudest kid, but they still matter, you know? So part of me wonders if I should even vote at all, because I have been intimidated and threatened this week, past couple weeks. It's scary. It's really scary. It's gone too far. But at the same time, this is about the kids. And I have to say, thank you to the mayor for what he said tonight. I mean, he was supporting the council. He was supporting our kids. He was clear. He was transparent. And his speech alone could change my vote. I don't know how I'm going to vote. I don't know how I'm going to vote. Like I said, it's very emotional. But I just hope that we as adults can show the kids, you know, that we can act like adults and come to consensus and appreciate other people and listen to other people. So with that, I yield. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. I see Councilor Wright is unmuted.
Thank you, Council President. I am feeling the pressure of being placed in an untenable situation. And it's not fair that we are having aspersion cast towards us for a vote that is, as has been said, of no real significance or consequences. A vote no tonight is not, and I will repeat, not, in my mind, a vote against anything else coming forward from Newburyport Youth Services. And I hope that will be demonstrated when we vote on the funding later this evening. So for me, the most important part are the things that the mayor, the administration, the people in the executive branch, whether you agree with the characterization or you don't, in my opinion, we're out of sequence, and I am responsible not only to the youth of Newburyport, but I'm also responsible to the taxpayers of Newburyport. And at this point, I don't have enough information to move forward on a zoning amendment. I yield.
Thank you, Councilor Wright. Anyone else in the room? Councilor Vogel.
So, thank you, Council President. With regard to the relationship that we have with the community and spending money and so forth and so on, I do not see the logic of spending money without knowing that somewhere down the road, who knows when it might be, can get to 8 votes on zoning. We could spend $30,000 or whatever it's going to be, 2/3 of that, looking for a design, and when it comes all the way around, we could not vote for the zoning, and that money has been spent and is gone. Do I have faith? I'm not sure. In terms of the dimensional controls and parking and all those things, when we voted for the Bresnahan, rebuilding the Bresnahan, changed that zoning, those things were not in place either. So there's a precedent to go ahead and do the zoning without the dimensional controls in place, just so that you know. We've done it before. And there is harm. There's harm. If we don't vote for this, we're sending a message. I do clearly believe that. It's been public. It's been out there. This is a no-brainer. In terms of sequencing, again, it's not part and parcel with the project. It's just allowing a use. So the use, we say, okay, you can consider putting a community center there. Plain and simple. Then we're going to go and spend money to see how much it costs to put that community center there. That, to me, is the proper sequence. Spend the money, get all hyped up about a design, and then, okay, now we have to change the zoning. What if we don't? Then what happens? In terms of making the innuendo about supporting whether or not supporting the money for the design, I just find it very, very difficult to consider spending money when I don't know that it can be used after we've come up with that design.
Further questions? Councilor Donahue and Wright, I'm assuming your hands are going to be down in a second? All right, thank you.
Sorry, I forgot that's manual. I have to lower it.
All right, just checking. Thank you, Councilor Donahue. Further discussion? All right, the motion on the floor is the approval as amended.
Correct. Roll call?
Roll call.
This is a roll call on the motion to approve 105 as amended. Councilor Wright?
No.
Councilor Zeid? No. Councilor Cameron?
Yes.
Councilor Donahue?
Yes.
Councilor Khan?
Yes.
Councilor Lane is still recused for the record. Councilor McCauley?
No.
Councilor Preston?
Yes.
Councilor Vogel?
Yes.
Councilor Wallace?
Yes.
Councilor Shan?
Yes.
Needing 8, motion fails.
All right. Councilor Z, did you want to bring anything else out? Ahead. Okay. All right, moving on then.
Consent agenda
Yes.
consists of the approval of the minutes for April 21 and 25. There are 3 communications. They're all event applications. 74 is the 5K race Sunday, September 25th. 75, application 75 is the dinner, needing a tent on the 69th Street on October 8th, 6 to 9 p.m. And application 76 is the High Street Mile, Yankee Homecoming, 9 in the morning. All 3 are going to public safety. Transfers, all going to budget and finance. Transfer 125, 60,000 to health insurance premium, same amount. Transfer 126, solid waste, 50,000 to city solicitor, same amount. And transfer 127, general fund free cash, 222,000 to snow and ice, 29,000. Snow and ice expenses, 192,000. We have 2 reappointments. Appointment 319, Javine Kowalski, Assistant Harbor Master, Shellfish Constable, and Special Police Officer, until 5/31/2025. We have Brian Cutler, same, Assistant Harbor Master, Constable, and SPO, until 5/31/2025. The following items are removed from their respective committees. Budget and Finance, transfer 124 orders 344, 346, 347, and 348. General Government, Order 319, Order 340, and Communication 402. Planning and Development, Ordinance 105, Ordinance 46, Order 330, and 341. And Public Safety, Applications 72, 73, 315, and 318, and Order 345. I should mention as a note, we've already removed and disposed of, at least in part, Ordinance 105, leaving the tabled amount still on the table. And that's the consent agenda this evening.
Motion to amend, kind of a long amendment, but these are the late files. Add application 77 to public safety.
Add appointment 321 to planning and development. Add 354, 55, 56 to budget and finance.
And then add 357 to neighborhood and city services. And I believe that would, into the consent, that would resolve all of the late files to their respective committees.
Agreed.
Thank you. And I'm sorry, the last one was 57 to
neighborhood and city.
Public safety.
Do you want public safety?
Yeah, we're
public
doing
safety.
the dredge all the way through.
Public safety.
Yeah, so we had.
And then, I need a second on that.
Second?
Second on that, sorry. I want, go.
Do you have something?
No, I had something else.
Okay.
Motion to remove appointments 319 and 320.
Okay. All right, any further amendments? All right, roll call.
So those appointments are unilaterally, right? Motion amended by Councilor Z, and seconded by Councilor McCauley. Roll call. On the motion to amend, Councilor Wright? Councilor, okay, thank you. Councilor Z?
Yes.
Councilor Cameron?
Yes.
Councilor Donahue?
Yes.
Councilor Khan?
Yes.
Councilor Lane, are you back?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Welcome. Councilor McCauley?
Yes.
Councilor Preston?
Yes.
Councilor Vogel?
Yes.
Councilor Wallace?
Yes.
And Councilor Shan.
Yes.
So the motion to amend has been voted on. I think we now need a motion to,
And just point of order, just for so it was 319, order 319 that was removed?
Appointment.
Appointment 319 and appointment 320.
Appointment, okay. Okay, got it, thank you.
would we,
Motion to approve as amended?
thank you.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilor Wright?
Yes.
Councilor Z?
Yes.
Councilor Cameron?
Yes.
Councilor Donahue?
You don't have to.
Councilor Khan?
Yes.
Yes.
Councilor Lane?
Yes.
Councilor McCauley?
Yes.
Councilor Preston?
Yes.
Councilor Vogel?
Yes.
Councilor Wallace? And Councilor Shan?
Yes.
Thank you.
Right.
All right. Mayor's update.
Motion to receive and file.
Second.
Roll call.
On receiving filing, Councilor Wright?
Yes.
Councilor Z?
Yes.
Councilor Cameron?
Yes.
Councilor Donahue?
Yes.
Councilor Khan?
Yes.
Councilor Lane?
Yes.
Councilor McCauley?
Yes.
Councilor Preston?
Yes.
Councilor Vogel?
Yes.
Councilor Wallace?
Yes.
And Councilor Shan?
Yes.
Perfect, thank you.
First reading appointments.
So for the appointments, we have the late file, but we also have the ones that were removed from,
The late file was already sent to planning and dev in the consent. That was one of my
Mo-
amendments.
Motion to send appointment 319 and 320 to public safety
Second.
collectively.
thank you.
Discussion. Roll call.
319 and 320 to public safety. Counselor Wright.
Yes.
Counselor Z.
Yes.
Counselor Cameron.
Yes.
Counselor Donahue.
Yes.
Counselor Khan.
Yes.
Counselor Lane.
Yes.
Counselor McCauley.
Yes.
Counselor Preston.
Yes.
Counselor Vogel.
Yes.
Counselor Wallace.
Yes.
And Counselor Shan.
Yes.
Okay.
Communications.
And 321's Ari, you sent that to B and D, Counselor, correct?
Yes.
Motion to send application 77 to public safety.
Second.
Discussion?
That was already done in the consent.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right.
Amended one.
Couldn't find, 77 was first. It was under my fold. Sorry.
Safety already.
All right. Transfers.
There are no transfers that I know of.
Second reading appointments.
We have 313 Joe Copper, 8 Fruit Street, Cultural Council, 429, 2025.
Motion to approve on second reading.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Counselor Wright.
Yes.
Counselor Zede.
Yes.
Counselor Cameron.
Yes.
Counselor Donahue.
Yes.
Counselor Khan.
Yes.
Counselor Lane.
Yes.
Counselor McCauley.
Yes.
Counselor Preston.
Yes.
Counselor Vogel.
Yes.
Counselor Wallace.
Yes.
And Counselor Shan.
Yes.
Thank you.
Can I make a ginormous a motion?
Absolutely.
To refer Order 349 revolving fund 350, so 349 to Budget and Finance and Committee of the Whole, 350, which is the FY23 budget order, to Budget and Finance and Committee of the Whole, 351, loan order 750K to Bulkhead Project to Budget and Finance, and let's make that Committee of the Whole too. And then order 352 and 353 to Public Utilities, licensed contractor Robert Pike and Commonwealth Consulting respectively. And then I'm just going to keep going. Ordinance 00110, update departmental revolving funds, budget and finance. And then finally, Ordinance 111, amendment net zero public projects to planning and development. I'm open to any friendlies if I messed up.
That's the most wonderful move I've ever heard. And I think it needs a second, doesn't it?
Second.
And the late files were already taken care of, just as a reminder, 54,
Right.
55, 6, and 7.
I think I have it. Does anyone need a repetition?
Nope.
Wonderful.
Not? Roll call.
Roll call on the mega motion. Counselor Wright.
Yes.
Counselor Z.
Yes.
Counselor Cameron. Yes. Counselor Donahue.
Yes.
Counselor Khan.
Yes.
Counselor Lane.
Yes.
Counselor McCauley.
Yes.
Counselor Preston.
Yes.
Counselor Vogel. Counselor Wallace.
Yes.
And Counselor Shan.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right.
To approve Ordinance 102 on second reading.
Second.
If I might, did we deal with yes, we did deal with the late files, didn't we?
Yep.
Yes, those are done.
Okay, good, great. Ordinance 102?
Yep.
Second reading for Chapter 17, Stormwater Management Revisions?
I was the second.
Correct.
All right. Roll call.
Motion approved second reading for Ordinance 102. Counselor Wright.
Yes.
Counselor Zede.
Yes.
Counselor Cameron.
Yes.
Counselor Donahue.
Yes.
Counselor Khan.
Yes.
Counselor Lane.
Yes.
Counselor McCauley.
Yes.
Counselor Preston.
Yes.
Counselor Vogel.
Yes.
Counselor Wallace.
Yes.
Counselor Shan.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Committee items. Skipping Economic Development, Market Lending, nothing there. Budget and Finance. Counselor Zede.
Thank you. Motion to approve transfer 124, which is Newburyport Youth Center's 30,000. Okay, terrible introduction, I'm sorry. To try again here. So this is transfer 124. The amount is $30,000 to NYS Center Schematic Design. First, let me just explain what it is. When this came in, it was $30,000 from the RRFA Receipts Reserve for Appropriation from the Kelly School. It was amended in committee so that the funding source is free cash. That was done in conjunction with the administration that was amenable to the idea. The $30,000 breaks down into $23,000 for the study at 59 Low Street and the remaining $7K is for the gym at the Brown School. Both of those respectively equate to a schematic design and a cost estimate. The Budget and Finance Committee and Committee of the Whole met on April 28th. In attendance, we had the Director of Youth Services, Andy Egmont. We had the Finance Director, Manager of Special Projects, the Chief of Staff, and then we had a representative from EGA, which was the administration's recommendation for the architect to do this project. We had a brief presentation. The slides of that are available in the minutes if you weren't there, didn't catch them, or would like to see them. And basically, we went through in both cases. EGA was available, and Scott Hall was the representative, did answer questions. To try and summarize, some of the most important questions were, are we getting a cost estimate on both? And the answer was yes. There was some question about the way the scope document was written, about whether the cost estimation would include both projects, and it was confirmed, and I'm putting it on the record here as well, that we do anticipate getting cost estimates from both. That is a subcontractor to EGA, but is included in that $30,000. So it's all coming together. What else can I tell you? Another question was how far along in the design. It was estimated that we'd be doing about 8% design with this funding. You heard the mayor state tonight, but this came up in committee too. We're talking about roughly a 6-week timeline from approval until we have something that we can look at. We did discuss the city's GHG. Councilors brought up questions about what that might look like and what systems might be available, and the architect indicated a willingness to look into those. We got into a discussion about type A3 and 5B type construction, which I am not going to try and talk about because I don't quite understand it well enough, but the architect clearly did and was willing to say that there were different ways that we could look at it. We also discussed if the cost would include remediation, and because we had talked about the former Cradair report, and the answer was definitely we'll look at some of those pieces, and they would be discussed as part of the cost, and there might be further details that are needed there. I think that's so in the end, the discussion really did end up centered primarily around the source of funds, and it seemed like the consensus position of really the committee of the whole was that free cash would be a more amenable source of funds, and that led to the adjustment of the source of funds. And that is what comes to you tonight. It was voted out of committee as amended with a vote of 3-0 in favor of doing so.
Further discussion? Thank you, Councilor Zaid. Any questions? Councilor Cameron.
I want to vote against it, and going back to the zoning argument, we don't have site control. There's no allowed use on this site, so I know that vote didn't matter according to some people, but it matters to me.
Thank you, Councilor Cameron. Councilor Vogel?
It matters to me as well, and I'm very sorry to say that I won't support this either.
Councilor Wallace?
Sure, I guess I'm a little confused because we already funded the MLA study for $70,000 and didn't have site control, so it can go either way. Just pointing that out, thank you.
Go either way.
Thank you, Councilor Wallace. Further discussion? Councilor Pazid?
Yeah, I just want to state that, this is not the committee report now, just my feeling, but this is what gives us a design, and this is what gives us a cost. And if we don't do this, this is the one, in my humble opinion, that actually is halting the project. So just play out both scenarios, in my opinion. If this does not pass, if the zoning didn't pass, which it didn't, nothing really changes. The project continues. If this doesn't pass, the project is dead and it does stop. And I think if that's the way we're going to go, then we do need to go back to the drawing board and we need to figure out exactly what is the consensus position here. I thought the consensus, again, and I stated this during the previous argument, was that the Low Street purchase vote was a compromise, that both sides had to agree that there was potential and not potential on Low Street, and this is the way that we get the answer to that question. So it does seem a little retaliatory, but I hope that this will pass, because I do think that if this falls off, I actually don't know what is the projects moving forward, and maybe councilors who oppose it could tell us what should be the next steps, just so we could understand how we might move forward. And I understand. I just want to understand what the thought process is.
Councilor Donahue has her hand up first, and then Councilor Cameron again. Councilor Donahue?
Yes, thank you, President. Can you guys hear me okay? I can't hear myself very well, so.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I just want to say that I will be supporting this for the reason that our very first public speaker tonight, her name escapes me, but you know, her ask was to support our youth and our youth services by passing both of these two particular pieces, this and also the zoning. I understand we didn't pass the zoning, and trust me when I say from the deepest depths of my heart that I am very, very disheartened about that. In the same token, I do feel it's that much more important that we do have our youth walk away with something from this meeting other than just now we're completely back to square one. I do feel we will revisit the zoning as appropriate, but I kind of have to agree with the Ward 1 counselor that I'm not really sure what the next step would be if we're not doing, you know, putting some money into the study. So I just, I can understand there's a lot of heavy hearts in the room right now, but I am going to be supporting this particular item. Thank you. I yield.
All right, Counselor Cameron, and then I have Counselor Wallace and Counselor Wright.
I passed.
Counselor Wallace, I'm sorry, Counselor Wright, you first since you haven't spoken, and then Counselor Wallace.
Thank you, Council President. I will be voting in favor of this. It's what the administration has asked us to do. And in my opinion, it's the next logical step. And it's an opportunity for us, for the public who are concerned with whether we support youth services or not. This is the opportunity to have an affirmative vote to be on the record as to whether you are in favor of moving this project forward, which I am, and I yield.
Counselor Wallace, do you have your hand up again?
Yeah, I just want to say I fully support this. This is the next step. This is the critical path. And again, I thank the mayor and his staff for doing this. And I guess I'm not clear, like, if this project is so important to so many people, why would you turn this down just as a retaliatory measure? Isn't the end goal is what's best for the kids? And it doesn't make sense.
Counselor Khan,
But you know, but I respect their opinion. I respect their opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Wallace. Counselor Khan?
Yes, thank you, Council President. Yeah, there are heavy hearts, but I'm not going to let my heavy heart prevent what we need to do. However, part of it is because I am not going to be motivated by I think what a few people believe is the sequence, you know, and I'm just going to say it. I think we were set up all incorrectly here. I almost feel like there's a playbook of maybe what we need to do, and just tell us so that we just do and follow it along to make our lives easier. Because using our own judgment and listening to others outside apparently isn't doing anything. So that's why it'd be really nice for me to know. I mean, definitely with the mayor's opening statement, it was very clear that the mayor did not want the zoning to happen first and wants this step first. So let me know so I'm not wasting my time. But I will be supporting this. I definitely want to see youth services at Low Street. I think everyone does. But it seems like there's a process that maybe I don't have that playbook, and I need to see it. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Khan. Counselor Preston, you had your hand up first?
I didn't have.
And so Counselor Vogel and Counselor Cameron.
It's interesting how we can use terms and throw them out there and all of a sudden turn around that we support youth services and you don't support youth services. My whole involvement in being a city councilor is because of youth services, and I've said that before, and I'll say it again, and I'll stand by it. As currently the longest serving councilor on the floor, I can tell you that I've been through a lot of this stuff. This is not a retaliatory vote. This is a vote because we're going to spend this money, and quite frankly, I'm not certain that we're going to turn the zoning around so that that money and that design can be put to use. That's plain and simple. There's no retaliation. It's pure logic. We're spending money on a design for a building that we may not zone to put there. You made it clear that the zoning's in question. That it's been made clear that you need to have dimensional requirements. It's been made clear. So I'm sorry. My responsibility to the community, we hold the purse strings. I can't support it. Sorry.
Councilor Cameron.
Thank you. Thank you, President. I am going to change my mind. I'm going to vote in favor of it. I object to the use of the word retaliatory by a couple of people. Yeah, it's my heart's not heavy. I'm angry. I'm frustrated. To Councilor at-large's point about what is the playbook, I think we can repeat the mayor's remarks verbally and in writing. He was in favor of us passing the zoning, so to say we're doing what the mayor, that's just a crock. I'm going to vote for it. We need to move forward on this. I've lost plenty of times before, and I'll try not to pick up my marbles and run home, but that was really a ridiculous vote earlier. If I can, if you want to characterize my intended vote as retaliatory, I'll just call that vote out as ridiculous. And it's retaliatory when the other side does it. When I do it and somebody doesn't like it, that's retaliatory, or it's bullying. I mean, we're all grown-ups here. The sequencing on this would have been fine with zoning. There's lots of other things. We don't know what's at the end of the path, but we take little baby steps and we get there. To me, zoning would have been one. Spending 30 grand here and whatever the previous report was that the Ward 4 councilor mentioned, I don't recall what that was. But we spend lots of money without knowing exactly how things are going to go. So I will vote in affirmative on this, but let's try to act responsibly here.
Further discussion? Roll call.
Roll call on the motion to approve 124. Councilor Wright?
Yes.
Councilor Zede?
Yes.
Councilor Cameron?
Yes.
Councilor Donahue?
Yes.
Councilor Khan?
Yes.
I'm assuming, Councilor Lane, are you still recused or not?
I'm here.
Then what's your vote, sir, please?
Yes.
Thank you. Councilor McCauley?
Yes.
Councilor Preston?
Yes.
Councilor Vogel?
No.
Councilor Wallace?
Yes.
Councilor Shan?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, Madam President. The next three, if I may introduce them together, and then we can decide how to deal with them.
Excuse me, point of order. Are you suggesting we're going to vote on them together, or are you just going to?
They were voted on together in committee. I was going to keep it that way, but we don't need any more fighting tonight. So, I mean, just I'd like to introduce them because they go together. So if I could just deliver
Introduce
the
them together and we'll
committee
vote on
report,
together.
President, that would be
Vote on them
appreciated. And then
singly.
I'll
Vote separately.
Vote separately, but we'll introduce them.
So there are three orders here. As stated, they do have some relation to each other, so it's easier for me to explain all of them together. In discussion, first thing is you should know that this was predated by a proposal about the end use of the Kelly School funds and a 2014 order of disposition for that building, which dedicated the funds coming off of that to be utilized by youth services at the Brown School. So in that conversation, which I will defer to the President as the Chair of General Government during that, we came to a conclusion that maybe a sensible compromise would be to also allocate some funds for the Brown School rather than trying to divvy up the funds from the Kelly School. And that was discussed at length in General Government. In order to effectuate that, I propose these three orders. I am the sponsor of them. Order 346 creates a stabilization fund, a Brown School stabilization fund. These funds are probably a known quantity now to most, but basically we can set them for a specific purpose, and then basically they get formed by a vote of 6, then funds go in with a vote of 6, and funds come out with a vote of 8. And so the Brown School Stabilization Fund, you can read the language in the order, but basically it stipulates that this is for use for the Brown School for general public use in the future. So that's what 346 is. It's essentially the creation of the fund. Once you've created it, then of course you have to add money to it at some point, and in this case, that's what Order 347 does. In conversation, the Kelly School funds are about 700 to use a round number, so the compromise was roughly 350 towards the Brown School, which would have been the 50-50. But in conversations with the administration, 350 of free cash was a little bit too rich given other needs in the city. So again, another compromise was we would do 125 from free cash, and the remainder would be a bond authorization, the theory being that the free cash would offer some liquidity, some money that could actually be spent in the near term, and then the bond authorization would provide that longer term sort of commitment towards the Brown School. So 347 is the free cash transfer and the depositing thereof into the Brown Stabilization Fund. And then Order 348 is the Brown School bond authorization. And so these were voted on in committee as stated collectively, and the vote there was 2-1 with the at-large Councillor Khan being the one dissenting, and she may speak to that if she so chooses, pardon me. So at this point, maybe what I could do is collectively motion for 346 and 47, which is the creation of the fund and the allocation of the free cash, as I don't think it makes sense to create a fund and then put nothing in it, so maybe that could at least be a starting point.
Second.
Thank you.
Discussion.
And yeah, I think that's it for the committee report.
Discussion. Councillor Khan.
Yes, thank you, Council President. Yeah, I'm not supporting this, and so my reasons are several reasons. I mean, we have the ad hoc formed on the Brown School that I don't know when it's meeting. I hope it's meeting sometime soon. But I feel like there's a lot still uncertain about what's going to happen at the Brown School. And to commit to something like this without really knowing a lot of what's going to be happening there doesn't make sense. We talked about, and I won't regurgitate because we're all kind of still like that, but I think part of it is, we talk about, I hate the word sequencing. I think I used to like that word, but now I'm not liking it. But we're talking about like the order of things, what's like best practices, what makes sense. To already set aside money when we don't really even know what we're doing to that building makes no sense to me. And I don't even think I have to consult any best practices book on that. So for me, it's like there are efforts that are going to happen. I hope when the effort is kicked off to have this group kind of reformulate, to get some ideas of what is being already kind of done with past studies and might be what the vision is for this site. I also think that we are having this study that we just approved, that transfer, and I did support that because a portion, I believe 7,000, will be looking at the possibility of what could happen with the gym and some portion of the Brown School. So let's find out what's happening there and what that investment's going to be like before we actually just commit to it. So I will not be supporting this. Thank you.
So Councillor Donahue had her hand up, and then Councillor Vogel. Councillor Donahue?
Yes, thank you, President. I might need a point of clarity first, in that, are we voting on this as one?
346 and 347.
Establishment of funding for free cash.
Does that include the bonding? No. Doesn't include the bonding, okay. So I will be supporting establishing the fund and a free cash ask, but I'm not going to be supporting any bonding for it. As ward counselor for the building, for the Brown School, I'm very invested in this. I want to make sure that we have something in place, but I do think that we have some pretty significant priorities of projects that we know we need the money for, and we know, the plans already and exactly what we need. So I can't really support the bonding piece, but I am going to vote in favor of establishing the stabilization fund and an ask of free cash. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. then with that, I will yield. Thank you.
So Counselor Vogel and then Counselor Lane.
So just to remind ourselves as to how we got here, there was a lot of discussion at the end of the year about making compromise and making understanding about what our expectations were. And I made a commitment at that time that I would see to the Brown School getting some attention. And I'll stand by that with this vote on these two issues, or these two matters. I think that really, now that we're talking about sequencing, we're completely out of whack on this one because we're so far and away. And that school, let's just be reminded, that school is not operating, that building is not operating, that water is turned off in that building. You can't even turn on the water. You couldn't go in there and use that building tomorrow. You turn on the water, it's been explained that some of it's galvanized and it would come apart, so the building is kaput. If the ad hoc committee comes up with an understanding that they want to spend some money, and it takes 2/3 of us to spend that money, I think there's enough safeguard, and I think I'm owning up to my promise to see to a compromise to get to an end. Again, I think I'm living up to my promise to see a compromise to live to the end. So I will support it. I'll support these two. And then when we get to the bond, I'll suggest an amendment.
Counselor Lane, and then Counselor Zede.
Hi, thank you. I've been pretty adamant about how I feel about the Brown School as a whole. I do think there are some redeeming qualities, such as the gym, that do require some looking into. I think that would be a great asset. I'll stand by. I think we should sell the Brown School. I'll say it out loud. Part of how we did get here, to reiterate a point, was this school was decommissioned and then we let youth services occupy it. So to me, we're cleaning up after someone else's mess here. So the best move, I think, is to look at the redeeming qualities of that building at this point, being the gym. And I'll maintain that I think that the sale should be highly considered on this school, this property. I think it solves a lot of issues. We could, get a positive cash flow income from doing that and use that money for youth services. It really kills two birds with one stone. It provides a solution to what we need to do for the youth of our community. And if we can keep the gym as a community gym down in the South End, great. We've won on two different levels, actually more than two different levels. So that's my thoughts. I'm going to support this. Though I think, I hate to throw money at the Brown School, but I do think there are some redeeming things there, and it's part of the greater conversation. And I'll.
Thank you, Counselor Lane. Counselor Zede. Counselor McCauley, and then Counselor Preston.
Yeah, so, sorry. This is sort of where I fall apart here. If the process is backward at Low Street, then the process at the Brown School is very backward, in my opinion. So I can't support the establishment of the fund or utilizing any money. We, at this point in time, have no idea what we're going to do at the Brown School, and therefore we have no idea what we need to spend money on. I did approve the $7,000 for the schematic design because I do want to understand what might be able to be done with the gym. But moving beyond that, this money is completely arbitrary. The number 350 only comes from the fact that it's half of the Kelly School money. There was no promises that the Kelly School money would be at the Brown School. This makes absolutely no sense to me. If we can't move forward with Low Street, if that is a backward process, then this is absolutely a backward process, and I cannot support it.
Thank you, Counselor Preston. Counselor McCauley.
Yeah, I will support the establishment of the fund, and I will support the free cash. I'm not supporting any appropriation of the free cash because it'll be held there in that fund. So when we have the results from the $7,000 study, and we have the results of maybe a meeting or two of the Brown School ad hoc committee, we might have some direction as to where it goes. The 125 can be reallocated back to the city. The 125 could be allocated for some of the expenses. I'm very concerned with some outside board members who have made some comments public comments rather, about what they want to do with the Brown and how much money they want to invest of city money that they don't own yet. And part of it is appropriation through the CPA, some of it is through grant funds and all of that stuff. And they've stated in various different public meetings that they're trying to build up a trust fund so they can, give the school away, that they can fund a developer to be able to do some things on those things down there. And those things concern me. And I'd like to be able to have at least, let's call it a little bit of stabilization money, so that if something needs to happen that the city can control, the city should control it and not rely on some outside people to be able to do that. So I am going to support this. These two matters together. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor McCauley. Further discussion? Councilor Cameron.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll support the fund establishment. I think those, they're pretty standard, as councilors from Ward 1 said, in terms of how it's set up and how the money goes in and how the money goes out. And I think that's a good safeguard. Yeah, we do. I will set, I promise, or I'll threaten to set up the Brown School ad hoc. I know we're all dying to get going on that. Yeah, and hopefully we can come, to some general parameters within a few months. We may not be all that far away every time. I definitely hear the Ward 1 and Ward 2 councilors, also as somebody who lives in that neighborhood. I mean, we want to, do right by the building and its potential, and we want to make sure that the butters and other folks in those neighborhoods, their issues are addressed. I'm not sure how I feel about putting in the free cash. So I'm reserving judgment on that for the next few seconds. But the whole $25,000 in borrowing, I think that might be premature because, again, I'm not sure exactly what we use it for. If it's for the, community center, gym, whatever we're going to call it, I think we're not quite there yet. I'm not opposed to that. I'm not in favor of that. I'm somebody in search of more information. But I think the concept of establishing the fund is a good one. And again, I'm not sure about the free cash piece.
Further discussion? All right, so we should probably do this by order.
I think it's a joint motion.
Is that what's on the floor?
It's a collective 346 and 347.
Okay.
As I read it, it's a two-thirds vote for 346 and a simple majority for 347. Am I right?
Actually, you can establish the fund. Both are a simple majority.
It says City Council hereby establishes by a two-thirds vote.
Sorry. Yeah, establishment and out are two-thirds, in is 6.
Right, but 346 establishes, correct?
Correct.
So that would be a two-thirds.
So,
And by time together, both become effectively two-thirds. Okay.
should we do this separately?
6 is a two-thirds. 347 would be simple.
So it's two-thirds in and two-thirds out.
It's, no.
No.
It's 6 in, two-thirds out, but 2/3 to establish in the first place.
Councilor Cameron?
Can I ask the sponsor who made the motion? I mean, would you be willing to separate them, or do you? I hear you say it's good to have money in the fund when you establish it, which that's true, I suppose. However, I'm more reluctant on the free cash piece than I am on the establishment of it, which I definitely will vote for.
Councilor Zede?
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I was going to wait and talk about this during the bond, but I mean, the core, first of all, to answer the at-large councilor's question directly, I don't know what we would do with a fund with nothing in it. I mean, I suppose that you could always put money in later, but to me, the compromise that was driven between this and the other order was that what I think we discovered in committee was that it was something special about the Kelly School money and it being used for NYS, and this seemed to be somewhat of an elegant solution to enable that, but also help with the concern that I'm bringing forward on behalf of my ward, on behalf of the neighborhood, which is that the Brown School doesn't get left behind. And we had considerable discussions about the 2014 order, what it meant, what it didn't mean. I thought this was sensible. I thought there was positive in committee that, by doing this, NYS would have the $693,000 from the Kelly School, which will be voted on shortly, and then we would find this money. And then the split between a bond and a free cash was in order to basically adjust for the realities of economics. So the bond auth, which we're not quite to yet, but is simply an authorization, and it sounds like it may be amended, which is okay, and that this free cash would provide some cash for liquidity. So honestly, if we don't want to put any money in it, we don't even have to establish. I'm not sure what value that would have to the residents that I represent, if that's the question at hand. So I didn't offer my thoughts, but I offered the committee report. But the Brown School has languished, and it does need investment, and it does need help. And I'm sorry that I don't have more details to share with you. Unfortunately, the theme of tonight is sequencing, and so what can I tell you? But I am reacting to a proposal that was put in good faith to try and take the money from the Kelly School to pave a path forward when the same exact arguments that are being made against, we don't know what the Brown's going to cost, we don't know what we're doing. So we're all kind of out there in the ether right now on all of these. I'd be happy to put all of these aside and just hang on until we can get the $30,000 results, which we did come to a positive conclusion to. But that idea was brought up when this came in. That idea was brought up in committee and was not looked upon favorably at that time. So what I'm asking for is, if we'd like to move forward on the 693, could we please honor this is a compromise. It's a compromise. And you do have safeguards that in order to get money out of this fund, it would require a 2/3 vote. I suspect the amendment on the bond will mirror that, which I am okay with, just to telegraph that if we'd like to make the authorization, but then make it subject to a plan being brought forward to the council for approval, subject to a 2/3 majority. I am okay with that. But for the same reasons that folks, it's just, we're all arguing all sides, and I acknowledge that, and this is a compromise that I think can be lived with, and I think all of these three plus the one in general government, in my opinion, go together, and I would appreciate your support on them, and it will go to good use at the Brown School, and if you don't think it will go to good use, it can be killed at that time, at that vote.
Thank you,
Best I
Councilor
can do.
Zaid. So, Councilor Khan.
Thank you, Council President. So we all heard that the germination was a compromise for an order that we're not talking about, which I introduced and sponsored. So I just want that to be recognized because, and I just want to clarify, because I think I kind of pushed this boulder down the hill and it's rolling. And I didn't mean to, and if I could run and stop and push it back up, I would. But I was actually just trying to clarify so that money could be spent. That's all that, and I just want to say that, I said it in committee, the Kelly School order for money cannot be touched because of the way it's written right now. So I was just trying to modify the language so we could use it.
Thank you, Councilor Khan. Councilor Vogel?
So if sequencing is the word of the night or of the week, compromise is another one, and it seems to have some interesting definitions. Again, I'm going to live up to my compromise, the compromise that was made back in December. I'm going to live up to my compromise, and I will support these two.
Further discussion? All right, so what's on the floor?
Motion to approve
Yeah.
346 and 347
Collectively, yes.
collectively. Roll call.
Roll call.
Roll call on the motion to approve 346 and 347. Councilor Wright?
Yes.
Councilor Zede?
Yes.
Councilor Cameron?
Yes.
Councilor Donahue?
Yes.
Councilor Khan?
No.
Councilor Lane?
Yes.
Councilor McCauley? Yes. Councilor Preston?
No.
Councilor Vogel?
Yes.
Councilor Wallace?
Yes.
Councilor Shan?
Yes.
Needing 8, receiving more than that, motion passes. So both 46 and 47, 346, 347.
So next is the motion to approve 348.
Second.
And I'm just going to go ahead and make the motion to amend myself, which is to add language to the effect that prior to the issuance of the bond, a supermajority vote of the council shall be taken based on a plan presented by the administration. The clerk will help me in now my old age tonight to clean that up, but that's what I'm, same standard basically as the stabilization fund, with the clerk's help on the language.
Got it. Discussion?
Yeah,
Did you get that?
This is on the,
I just wanted to comment, what I think is that anytime a bond is issued, you need 2/3.
Right, but just to be clear,
Okay.
so this is to add an additional layer, so we would be authorizing the bond subject to the condition that it would be subject to another vote of the council. We've done that in the past with other bonds, so when a plan is presented, it would come back here. So it's 2 belts and 2 suspenders,
Yeah, two-step process.
2-step process.
Councilor McCauley?
only because I needed to stand up on this. But I will support this, especially with I will support the amendment to this. I think it's it's good to kind of put things in the proper order that they should be. And I think before we go to bond and commit the city's money and taxpayers' money, we have a plan to be able to go forward with it. So I will support this amendment.
Just so I've got it, it's a motion to approve with that amendment, correct?
Motion to approve was seconded, then I made a motion to amend, which was seconded. So I believe this amendment's on the
This is
floor.
the amendment discussion.
Gotcha.
Unless you think I could take it friendly because I'm the sponsor of the
Well, I think that's a wonderful idea myself.
I will talk to Sharif, and he has agreed to accept it as friendly. So.
I will take my second back and stay with my first second.
Thank you for all getting along with yourselves.
All right, so we're getting loopy, so Councilor Cameron, your hand was up.
So can we just repeat the amendment again? Sorry.
So it's a motion to approve as amended, and the language will be refined, but it's basically prior to the issuance of a bond, it requires a 2/3 vote.
And reference to a plan.
Okay, thank you. And a plan.
Some reference to.
And a reference to a plan.
No, I'm asking you to make some reference to that we want to see the plan. We want to know where the money's going. I'm asking you to wordsmith it to make a reference to that we want, that a plan needs to be associated with it.
Subject to a 2/3 approval of a plan and budget
Yeah.
as presented to the city council.
Thank you.
Does that work?
That works.
Something to like that.
Thank you.
All right, so motion on the floor,
Motion to approve as amended, aforesaid.
roll call.
Councilor Wright.
Yes.
Councilor Zede.
Yes.
Councilor Cameron.
No.
Councilor Donahue.
No.
Councilor Khan.
No.
Councilor Lane.
Yes.
Councilor McCauley.
Yes.
Councilor Preston.
No.
Councilor Vogel.
Yes?
Councilor Wallace.
Yes.
Councilor Shan.
Yes.
So let me think for a minute whether we need a 2/3 or a simple,
Yes, 2/3 bond off.
clearly. So motion fails.
What was the vote?
It was 4 no, 7 yes. Everyone agree?
Yep.
So the last item is Order 344, the Harbor Master Truck Application. Motion to approve.
Second.
So this is a truck that the Harbor Master is purchasing. We actually already did this about a month ago or so, maybe 8 weeks ago. At that time, we authorized the Harbor Master to lease the vehicle, which currently DOR, the Department of Revenue, requires us to treat that as a lease, as a loan, pardon me, which is why we had to approve it. In the interim, the Harbor Master and the Harbor Commission have decided that their cash position is actually fairly strong, and they'd like to just buy the truck outright rather than do it as a lease. So this is not a new vehicle. The vehicle was already ordered. The vehicle is due this month to be in. This is simply swapping the financing mechanism. So rather than doing it as a lease, instead it will be done as a straight purchase, and this would supersede. It was 3-0 in committee. Fairly straightforward.
Further discussion?
I just have
Councilor
just a
Vogel?
point of order. So is it, is there an amended version of this, or doesn't it, so to purchase, for that the city council, oh, okay. Sorry.
It's a new order.
Got it. I got it.
Further questions? All right, roll call.
It's a motion to approve Order 344. Counselor Wright?
Yes.
Counselor Zede?
Yes.
Counselor Cameron?
Yes.
Counselor Donahue?
Yes.
Counselor Khan?
Yes.
Counselor Lane?
Yes.
Counselor McCauley?
Yes.
Counselor Preston?
Yes.
Counselor Vogel?
Yes.
Counselor Wallace?
Yes.
Counselor Shan?
Yes.
Unanimous.
So that's it for the matters. I just wanted to remind, I sent everybody an email about budget that starts next week in CIP. We should be having the budget in our inboxes, I think, tonight. Andrew is here, he could confirm, but you should have it. And then the paper books are coming. I guess they're at the printer. The first budget workshop is on Thursday, so please keep that in mind. Right now, the only date change that's being looked at is May 26th. May change to 5/24, so I'm just giving you a heads up, but I will confirm in the coming days once I am able to connect with staff due to a scheduling conflict. Budget and Finance, as usual, is absolutely crushed right now with all the stuff that we just got in. Much of it is Committee of the Whole, which is why I'm mentioning it to everybody, but we just got the CPA matters. Some of them apparently there's some time sensitivity to them, and then we just have some regular stuff to deal with. So we will be starting at 6 o'clock on Thursday. We will do the budget workshop first, and then we'll continue on to some other budget and finance matters, and just ask for your patience as we try and dodge and weave to get through all the business. And that's it tonight for budget and finance.
Thank you, Counselor Zede. Counselor Khan, Education.
Yeah, thank you, Council President. So the Education Committee met last week on Tuesday, May 3rd. And we really spent most of the time talking about the budget, which is available on the city's webpage. It's from the April 26th meeting of the school committee, and they actually approved the budget, which is going to be an interesting discussion. So just to give a quick little summary, I would really recommend, if those of you who have not, we will have our budget books, but a key part of it that will not be there is the presentation that was in the school committee packet that talks a little bit about how they came up with the numbers towards reaching what they are calling a strategic budget to reach, I think we've always asked for aspirational or give us some real insight into what it takes that the school is looking to kind of achieve. And so they did do that. And so what you'll see is for a level services offering, the percentage above what the appropriation was from last year is 3.7%. And that's, I think, an important number for us to know. This is just to maintain what is just currently there in the budget, and to also take into account that the salaries, there have been new contract negotiations, and that reflects that. The additional on top of that has created the overall increase to be 6% from last year. So that's kind of a first-time number, I think, for us to see. And what will end up happening is, as we go through the budget process, the budget hearings, those slides will become really important because they show where they've also put in flexibility if there is a need to reduce that amount. What would be the aspects of that strategic budget that could be eliminated? So I really encourage all my fellow counselors to please take a look at those. I was going to put them in the packet, and maybe our next packet before we have that education, the hearing with the superintendent. I'll try to make sure to get that somehow in place so that folks could see that, and maybe have it separated out of the packet. Additionally, we talked about kind of what's been buzzing around town in terms of what I think the school committee mentioned as cultural competency, and trying to do a public forum, which will be on June 6th. And this is to address issues that the school committee has been seeing. I think some of us city councilors have also been getting emails. What are kids being taught when it comes to identity, when it comes to maybe what's being kind of flagged as DEI efforts? They want to have an honest conversation with teachers, with the educators, with kind of a curriculum focus, and have an open forum for people to come and actually hear and ask questions. So that will be on June 6th. There'll be more information. We'll have another meeting, I'm sure, before that, hopefully a flyer can also be maybe put in our packet and we could let the public know about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Khan. All right, so for general government, motion to approve Order 319, the Kelly School Funds Order.
Second.
So as Councilor Khan and Councilor Cameron were the sponsors for this, this truly was an opportunity to get the funds into a position where we could actually use them. This did come out of the committee 3-0 in support of. If there's questions, I would ask the sponsoring councilors if you would like to speak on this one. All right, question, Councilor Zeeb.
I'd like to make a motion to amend to reduce the amount from $695,500 to $595,500, and the remaining $100 to go to the new Brown School Stabilization Fund that we just established.
Is there a second?
Second.
So I'll just make my case very briefly. So again, I thought that the other pieces were part of that compromise. I appreciate that my colleagues did honor that from the committee. I'm asking the rest of you to consider this. I'm not greedy. I'm not asking to be made, so to say, whole. We could have the whole debate about what this money was for and what the intent was and so forth. But I'm trying to peel off 100 here to go into that fund to make 225, and the remainder in committee early on in the discussions, a 70-30 split was made. We are divvying up the results. I think, in my opinion, the original order, a rising tide lifts all ships, so it would have supported NYS and it would have supported Brown. As it leaves the Brown School, it'd be nice to leave a little bit left over, and I hope that this could be a small amount without asking for too much or being too greedy. So I hope you'll consider it.
Further discussion? All right, roll call on the amendment.
Okay, this is a motion to amend 695 and reducing it to 595.5, and to take that 100,000 freed from that motion to the Brown School Stabilization Fund. Councilor Wright.
Yes.
Councilor Zeed.
Yes.
Councilor Cameron.
No.
Councilor Donahue.
Yes.
Councilor Khan.
No.
Councilor Lane.
Yes.
Councilor McCauley.
Yes.
Councilor Preston.
No.
Councilor Vogel says no. Councilor Wallace.
Yes.
And Councilor Shan.
No.
No. I believe this needs a simple majority, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Am I right on that?
Mm-hmm.
Motion passes 6-5.
Councilor McCauley?
Yeah, I have some things to say about this, and I'll ask you for your patience while I say them. So I've had some problems with this. I had some problems with this from the timing standpoint. It was 2 weeks after, it was submitted 2 weeks after our grand compromise. And I had some problems that I raised procedurally. The sale of an asset needed 8 votes to create it, yet somehow a change of use is designated as 8. I get it. We got some legal advice. I don't think that legal advice is right, but that's incidental because I think this should be an 11-0 vote to begin with. So that's not my concern, my main concern. My real concern is the actual language. The language in 2000, I wasn't a fan of the language in 2014, particularly when it says at the mayor's sole discretion to spend $695,000 for NYS at the Brown. The city council, in my opinion, forfeited its fiscal oversight in this. And how did this work out? Let me give you an example. The Brown School needed a boiler to support NYS. The previous mayor spent $0 on it. There was remediation for environmental issues. The previous mayor spent $0 on it. There needed to be updates in the bathroom to ADA compliance. The previous mayor spent $0 on it. It seems that the previous mayor's actions did not align with her actual words that were said, and yet we, the council, took all the flack that happened there. Because I will state that I never took a vote to kick NYS out of the Brown. I never took a vote to not pay for any of the issues that they had at the Brown. I did take a vote on a failed order to give them an additional $1.2 million to make the Browns safe. So now we fast forward to 2022. The language is even more vague. We've changed the use parameters, and the language now says, for any and all expenses in search of a home. Is that the intent? Do we really think that this money could be used for anything, for anywhere? Are we going to continue to pay $3,000 a month for a lease in the former mayor's church? That we should continue to do that and come out of these funds? Do we need to pay for storage of furniture or equipment or anything like that that goes along with it? I'm sure that's not our intent. And what happens when the actual unthinkable happens? That after all of this, the first choice for youth services is to go back to the Brown. Will we actually spend the money at the Brown? Will we collectively lose our minds? Because that's the trend that we're on right now. So I'd like to make an amendment, a simple amendment, that right after it says, at the discretion of the mayor, comma, with the approval of a majority of the city council, not a supermajority, a majority of the city council, for costs, and drop any and all.
If I could, with the approval of a majority of the city council.
Thank you.
And if you could just give me that language again, with approval of the majority of the city council.
Comma, for costs, and drop any and all.
Discussion on the amendment. Councilor Vogel.
Well, thank you, Council President. There was a couple things kind of misstated there, but for example, just FYI, the former mayor's church is not where youth services is. So it says any and all costs associated with the establishment of a location for Newburyport youth services consistent, was left off, consistent with its departmental mission. So I think that that's pretty darn clear that any expenditure of the money is with the departmental's mission, not just at the discretion of the mayor per se, or just to be spent. Amazingly how we rewrite history, and amazingly how we call one another out and say it very loud, and therefore it must be right. So I'm not going to support the amendment. I'm not going to, and unfortunately, as amended, I can't even support it. So we're sort of back to being not able to spend this money in any way, shape, or form, because the only way that we can spend it is for youth services at the Brown School, and you can't get into the Brown School because the Brown School's decommissioned and really quite the petri dish. So I don't know what we're doing, but say it loud enough and it just may stick.
Further discussion? Councilor Cameron?
Thank you, President. Yeah, I'm not going to vote for this amendment. I think that's specific enough. I trust the mayor, and that's it.
Councilor Zede?
The only thing I want to add to the conversation, just for the record, is that one thing we learned in committee is that these funds have to be spent towards essentially a long-term capital project. That's the only thing I want to add to the conversation. So because the money originated from the disposition of real estate, we learned from the city solicitor that it has to be used towards something that has a use. In other words, you couldn't use it to like fund operations or salaries or things like that. So this is just another layer on top of us. That's the state law. So I just wanted to mention that. I'll leave it there.
Further discussion? All right, roll call on the amendment.
This is the motion to amend to add the language as suggested by Councilor McCauley. Councilor Wright?
No.
Councilor Zede?
Yes.
Councilor Cameron?
No.
Councilor Donahue?
Yes.
Councilor Khan?
No.
Councilor Lane? Councilor Thank you. Councilor McCauley?
Yes.
Councilor Preston?
No.
Councilor Vogel?
No.
Councilor Wallace?
Yes.
And Councilor Shan?
No.
Motion fails.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what happened. Motion was
So-
going off.
Yes, I'm sorry, motion failed 5-6.
Okay, that's what I just wanted to double check. Thank you.
That leaves on the floor, the motion to approve is amended.
Discussion? All right, roll call.
Can we do the amendment one more time?
The one that passed?
Yeah, so this passed 6-5, that reduced it from a 695.5 to 595.5, and adding 100,000 to the Brown School Stabilization Fund, which was just set up. So it's a motion approved as amended. Okay, roll call.
Roll call.
Roll call on that motion to approve as amended. Councilor Wright.
Yes.
Councilor Zede.
Yes.
Councilor Cameron.
Yes.
Councilor Donahue.
Yes.
Councilor Khan.
Yes.
Councilor Lane.
Yes.
Councilor McCauley.
Yes.
Councilor Preston.
Yes.
Councilor Vogel.
No.
Councilor Wallace.
Yes.
Councilor Shan.
Yes.
10 yes, 1 no, motion passes.
Moving right along, motion to approve Order 340, the Fair Share Resolution.
So moved.
All right, so this one came out of committee 2-1 in favor of bringing it to the council to approve. So I'll leave it to Councilor Cameron to speak on behalf.
Thank you. So Councilor Donahue and I sponsored this, seems like a year ago, but it was only a month ago. And, I think we heard from several speakers here about this. So this is going to be a statewide ballot question on the November ballot for all voters to approve or disapprove. It would add, depending on your sources, a range of between $1.3 and $2 billion. I think 1.3 might be more accurate. And there's language in the in the budget amendment that would, in the ballot question, that would change the state constitution to have these additional monies, which would be raised on for people that are earning over $1 million. Those households would pay an additional 4% tax on top of the 5% flat tax that the rest of us pay. It would impact a small percentage of households in Massachusetts. There are 73, according to the Boston Globe, millionaire households in Newburyport. So this would definitely have an impact. I think you heard from remarks by Ted Nelson, as somebody who's cited his business in in Massachusetts. He's in Newburyport because of all of the assets that the state brings in terms of an educated workforce and other important infrastructure. This going towards transportation and education is definitely a part and parcel of that. Councilor Wallace had asked about how much exactly would come to Newburyport. Presumably, this could come in the form of Chapter 90 monies and Chapter 70 monies for transportation and for education. I did ask the folks that are advocating for this on a statewide level, and they could not provide any specificity. There is going to be some legislative discretion in here, but there's a whole range of educational needs, from state schools and universities to community colleges to our own public schools. And on the transportation side, it's not just Chapter 70, it's statewide roads and bridges and public transit and other things. So, however, I think it would be safe to say that this would be a significant amount that would impact communities in a positive way. Councilor Zede asked about people at that income level moving on. Other states have not seen a significant change. This has happened in New Jersey, in New York, but there probably would be some shifting. Sometimes people at that income level, it's a little easier for them to move. But net, the revenue would still be quite significant. And the history of this, we also had a bit of a discussion. So there was a citizens amendment that had enough signatures to get on the ballot. I think this would have been in 2016 or 18. It received 2 votes of all 200 of our state reps and senators. It had overwhelming support there, but there was lawsuits from some of the high-tech Massachusetts Competitive Partnership, High Technology Council, Mass Taxpayers Foundation, et cetera. It went before the Supreme Judicial Court, and they viewed on a technicality that I don't quite understand that it couldn't just be by the Constitutional Convention. It actually had to go to voters through a slightly different process. So it has arrived here. It was reported out of committee 2-1. Again, this is really just to send a message to voters for them to consider. Obviously, people don't necessarily listen to the Newburyport City Council, or maybe they do. Another point that we discussed in committee, the Office of Campaign and Political Finance has said that it is permissible for officials voting as a body to endorse a ballot question, may issue statements. That being said, we would not spend municipal resources. We're not going to send out flyers. We're not going to take any actions that would be spending public resources in support of this. But as a body to endorse, that is permissible. So that's.
Thank you, Councilor Cameron. Further discussion. Councilor McCauley.
Yeah, I'm going to vote no, simply because I have a version of personal ethics. I don't think that this is a ballot question in front of the voters. I don't think it's any of our purview to be able to make that recommendation as public servants. So I may vote for it, I may not vote for it in real life, but I'm not going to endorse it as part of a public body.
Thank you, Councilor McCauley. Further discussion. Roll call.
Roll call on motion to share 340. Councilor Wright.
No.
Councilor Zede.
No.
Councilor Cameron.
Yes.
Councilor Donahue.
Yes.
Councilor Khan.
Yes.
Councilor Lane.
No.
Councilor McCauley.
No.
Councilor Preston.
Yes.
Councilor Vogel.
Yes.
Councilor Wallace.
Yes.
Councilor Shan.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. So last but not least was Communication 402, which is 12 Cushing Avenue, Paper Street inquiry. We brought this out with no recommendation from our General Government Committee. Reason being, this was a request from a constituent of our Ward 4 councilor to have us do a title search on a property on Cushing Way. The way we left it out of general government was to actually start having the planning department take a look at Christie Drive and Cushing Drive and look at the plans from when they were originally built to see what the original intents were at that point. You can imagine that the planning department has not been at full staff this last week, so we really haven't gotten far with that. But we are starting to get more inquiries from residents on doing title searches on behalf of them, and I think as a body, we need to make a determination on how we're going to start handling those. But as a first for this one, I did ask the planning department to do the search, and hopefully we'll find something in that search to give some direction on where to go with this one. But we didn't have any recommendation for what to do with this, so if there's something someone would like to make an offer here. Councilor Vogel?
Well, if I may, I guess, I thought that we were going to get a little guidance from, yes, and we haven't received it.
Correct.
Okay, so I'd like to put it back into committee.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Further discussion. All right, Councilor McCauley?
Yeah, I just want to have further discussion on this just for a minute. Is that I think this is a critical piece to this. There are a number of developments that have unclaimed open spaces here, right? And it does have value to the abutters on both sides. It does have value to us to actually dispose of this land along the way. It'll increase the property values on both sides if they split it. exponentially for one if they try to take all of it. I think that what we need to do is talk through discussion about what our costs will be, right? And be able to, when we talk about the land, the value of the land, it's really the cost that we're incurring to be able to do that. And I would suggest that the committee have a discussion about that, simply because we can't be doing this for everyone, but we should be doing it for everyone, because there's a whole bunch of stuff that's left undone. I think that, from personal experience, I know that the increase in property values and tax rate that you pay more than justifies the time and effort needed to be able to close that out. So thank you.
Okay, thank Councilor Vogel.
Thank you. Just to add a little bit more color to that, though, there is the possibility that there's that whole discussion about private or public ways as well. And so if they are a private way right now, there may not necessarily be a benefit to the city if they're indeed used. So there's a whole lot more to this, and we definitely need the guidance.
Right, okay. All right, so the motion on the, sorry, Councilor Z?
My thing is, I kind of want to agree with both the at-large councilor and the Ward 5, but what I think is lacking is that we need to follow the same thing every time, and that's what I think we're lacking right now. So the decision is at the end, what do you do? But up until that point, we sort of have, it's very gray. I mean, who's going to get a title examiner? I mean, these are not things, typically we would address something like that in the context of a financial request. Here's a transfer order to fund this. So through the chair, maybe, or through the president, if the planning department, as part of their guidance, could say, here's the city of Newburyport, here's how we will handle this, and here's how the council fits in, here's how the planning office and the administration fits in. I think we could just have a runway for this, because I know I've had some in my ward over the years, and it's always been very ad hoc, and that leads to challenges. So
right,
maybe
I agree. Having
assist.
A process makes sense. All right, no further discussion. Motion is to put it back into committee.
Refer back to general government.
Yes. Roll call.
Councilor Wright, referring it back to general government.
Yes.
Councilor Zede.
Yes.
Councilor Cameron.
Yes.
Councilor Donahue.
Yes.
Councilor Cowan.
Yes.
Councilor Lane.
Yes.
Councilor McCauley.
Yes.
Councilor Preston.
Yes.
Councilor Vogel.
Yes.
Councilor Wallace.
Yes.
Councilor Shan.
Yes.
It is back.
All right, that's it for general government. We have been at this for 2 hours and 40 minutes. I have been told that people would rather have 5-minute recesses. Would folks like to take a 5-minute recess, or would like to continue going? I think somebody would like to take a 5-minute recess. So we'll be back in 5 minutes, 9:46. All right, so next committee is license and permits. Councilor Lane.
Council President, before we go to that, can I make a motion now that we go beyond 10 o'clock, just so we can?
10:30.
10:30? It's 10:30 now?
Yeah.
Okay, never mind, sorry.
Got 45 minutes, let's see what you do.
Sorry.
45 minutes.
I hadn't adjusted my clock yet. I'm sorry.
Motion to stop at 10, yeah.
All right, so Councilor Lane.
Oh, we'll be done.
Anything coming out of license and permits? Councilor Lane?
Yep, I'm here.
License and permits?
Nothing to report tonight.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Lane. Councilor Wallace, Neighborhood and City Services.
Nothing to report.
All right, thank you. Planning and Development, Councilor Cameron.
Oh, thank you. So sorry we're not going to do short-term rental units tonight. I know we're all
darn.
trying for another pitch spell. So we will actually, is there a mechanism for us to?
Remove from the
since
table.
It's been
Been removed, so you
from
can,
committee.
you can refer it back.
Make a motion to refer it back to committee.
Short-term rental units.
And committee.
In committee of the whole.
Second.
Yeah.
We're talking about ordinance 46.
Just point of order, I'm gonna recuse you guys. You talking again about the zoning?
Short-term rental.
Okay, sorry. Just let me know when you, it sounds kind of distant here, remote, so.
Okay, short-term rental, which I... Sorry, yeah, I went on mute and then I forgot to unmute. So this would be to put short-term rental ordinance back into committee. I don't believe you had I think it was the business park that you had an issue with, but that's not, we're not there yet.
Right, yep.
Yep, okay.
Okay, thank you.
So back to Planning and Development Committee and as a committee of the whole.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Roll call, I'm moving it back. Councilor Wright?
Yes.
Councilor Z? Yes. Councilor Cameron?
Yes.
Councilor Donahue?
Yes.
Councilor Khan?
Yes.
Councilor Lane?
Yes.
Councilor McCauley?
No.
Councilor Preston?
Yes.
Councilor Vogel?
Yes.
Councilor Wallace?
Yes.
Councilor Shan?
Yes.
10 yes, 1 no, matters back into P&D, Committee of the Whole.
I'd like to remove from the table what we divided earlier, so this would be the ordinance. This ordinance relates to the business park uses, so this would be the long list of other uses, the non-216 uses, 701 through 712.
Removed from the table?
Correct.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you.
Discussion. Is that the right motion?
To remove from the table? Yes, I think so.
All right, roll call to remove from the table.
On a motion to remove the remaining portions of 105 from the table, Councilor...
Oh, yes. Councilor Lane, you may need to recuse on this one. This is the business park uses.
Okay, I'll take a walk.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, Councilor Lane is recused. This is on the motion to remove from the table. Councilor Wright?
Yes.
Councilor Z? Yes. Councilor Cameron?
Yes.
Councilor Donahue?
Yes.
Councilor Khan?
Yes.
Councilor McCauley?
Yes.
Councilor Preston?
Yes.
Councilor Vogel? Yes. Councilor Wallace?
Yes.
Councilor Shan?
Yes.
Okay, the matters on the floor.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion.
So we had, again, this was linked with the community center that we discussed earlier tonight. We did have a meeting, joint public hearing with the planning board on April 6th. There were some changes made there, which this is all in your packet. That is the updated version. And I think this just allows a little bit more flexibility in the business park. And I think we heard from one business who's one or two persons who are looking to relocate to Newburyport and offer and use some of these services. So we did vote this one out of, well, we voted the whole thing out of committee 2-1, including this portion, I think.
Further discussion. No discussion. Roll call.
Motion approved, 105. Councilor Wright?
Yes.
Councilor Z?
Yes.
Councilor Cameron?
Yes.
Councilor Donahue?
Yes.
Councilor Khan?
Yes.
Councilor McCauley?
Yes.
Councilor Preston?
Yes.
Councilor Vogel?
Yes.
Councilor Wallace?
Yes.
Councilor Shan?
Yes.
10-1, zoning ordinance, first reading passes.
Who is the one?
Yeah.
Lane recused?
Oh, Lane recused. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
No problem.
Councilor Lane, you can come back. I'm closest to the microphone.
All right.
Motion to approve Order 330, license agreement between City and Friends of Plum Island Light.
Second.
Discussion.
So we met in committee and did approve this 3-0. So this is basically authorizing the mayor, and the clerk would be involved in this, to enter into a lease agreement with the Friends of Plum Island Light. So they are a nonprofit group, and they've been maintaining and supporting the lighthouse for several years. This would be for a period of 10 years. In sort of looking at this, we did have some questions about, they wanted to use it for weddings, not wedding receptions per se, and there's been some email between their leader and Councilor Zeid and myself, and I think the clerk was on there as well, and I think Councilor Zeid we're going to talk about an amendment just to allow for that use without causing any undue impact to abutters.
Zeid?
Yeah, so I'd like to make a motion to amend. So this isn't exact language. Essentially, the amendment is the bullet points, and then the clerk will work with either internally or with KP Law as needed to insert this in. But basically, to provide the allowance for up to 2 marriage ceremonies was the language we agreed on. So not receptions, but ceremonies, 2 ceremonies per month, under supervision of the board, of 1 or more board members of the licensee, which is the friends of. Each one lasting no more than 2 hours, with no more than 25 attendees, all parking legally off-site, no music or bands, only minor amplification allowed, no food, alcohol, and no installation of any temporary or permanent structures. So think of those as bullet points to be made into some sort of a paragraph that's a little bit nicer. As the chair mentioned, the 2 of us and the clerk went with the back and forth with the applicant, so to say, or the lessee here, and they're just looking to be able to offer this as a small way to augment, because they're essentially a nonprofit, so this just provides them a little bit of opportunity. And I would just remind you that the whole lease has a 60-day parachute, so if for some reason it's not working out, either party can terminate the lease, but this seemed to be like it would be reasonable for the neighbors, and they wouldn't be hearing lots of this and having amplification and so forth, and so it seemed reasonable, but we just couldn't get to language, so this seemed to be a way. So we're authorizing the clerk, subject to that, to finish this off, and I think that was acceptable to every party.
Second. That's great.
And I can provide the clerk has it, but I'm happy to provide it again if needed.
Yeah, you could send that.
Sure.
So roll call on the amendment.
Roll call on the motion to amend as outlined by Councilor Zede. Councilor Wright?
Yes.
Councilor Zede?
Yes.
Councilor Cameron?
Yes.
Councilor Donahue?
Yes.
Councilor Khan?
Yes.
Councilor Lane?
Yes.
Councilor McCauley?
Yes.
Councilor Preston? Councilor Vogel?
Yes.
Councilor Wallace?
Yes.
Councilor Shan?
Yes.
Amendment is approved. The motion to approve is amended on the floor.
All right. So further discussion. All right, roll call on approval.
On approval as amended, Councilor Wright?
Yes.
Councilor Zede?
Yes.
Councilor Cameron?
Yes.
Councilor Donahue?
Yes.
Councilor Khan?
Yes.
Councilor Lane?
Yes.
Councilor McCauley?
Yes.
Councilor Preston? Councilor Vogel?
Yes.
Councilor Wallace?
Yes.
Councilor Shan?
Yes.
Thank you.
Anything else, Counselor?
Yes, also coming out of committee, motion to approve Order 341, Blue Wave Solar Pilot Negotiation.
Second.
Discussion.
Thank you. So we also met a few weeks ago on this and approved it 3-0. Andrew Levine might speak to some points of this. Basically, we would, there's the idea to have solar panels at the Crow Lane landfill. I believe it's been to the planning board, right? And this would be authorizing the mayor along with the assessor, finance director, and sustainability director to negotiate a pilot payment in lieu of taxes agreement with the operators. And then that would also be subject to further approval by the council. So it's an early step, but then it will come back to us. We did approve it 3-0.
Further discussion. All right, roll call.
Councilor Wright?
Yes.
Councilor Zede?
Yes.
Councilor Cameron?
Yes.
Councilor Donahue?
Yes.
Councilor Khan?
Yes.
Councilor Lane?
Yes.
Councilor McCauley?
Yes.
Councilor Preston?
Yes.
Councilor Vogel?
Yes.
Councilor Wallace? Councilor...
Yes.
Councilor Wallace, is that a no?
Yes.
That's a yes.
Thank you. Councilor Shan?
Yes.
Thank you.
Anything else, Counselor?
Nothing further to report.
All right, Counselor McCauley, Public Safety.
Thank you, Council President. Motion to approve application 72 and 73 collectively.
Second?
Thank you. What you have here on 72 is a block party on Temple Street. It's been going on for 5 years. 2 years post-COVID. They've never had any issues. They have all their paperwork, insurance forms, et cetera. We approved it 3-0. 73 is something new, Olive's Backyard Artisan Show. It's an attempt by the manager of Olive's Coffee who came in to talk to us. They would like to use their backyard on July 16th for an artisan, a local artisan show. There'll be no music, there'll be no amplified music, there'll be no food vendors or anything like that. It'll just be arts and crafts. It'll be between the hours of, it's going to be during the, between 10 to 3 along the way. So it's, they expect maybe 50, maybe 100 people, but sprinkled out throughout the day. It's not going to be that way. They'd like to they'll let the neighbors know, and they want to have parking on the street, which is what's available there.
Further discussion? Roll call.
Motion approved 73 and 72 collectively. Councilor Wright.
Yes.
Councilor Zede.
Yes.
Councilor Cameron.
Yes.
Councilor Donahue.
Yes.
And Councilor Khan.
Yes.
Councilor Lane.
Yes.
Councilor McCauley.
Yes.
Councilor Preston.
Yes.
Councilor Vogel.
Yes.
Councilor Wallace.
Yes.
And Councilor Shan.
Yes.
Thank you.
Council President, I'd like to offer up appointment 315 and 318 collectively for appointment. Thank you. We've got, for 315 is Chris Charos as the Harbor Master as an alternate, and for 318 is Paul Hogg as the Harbor Master. Both attended our meeting. Chris Charos was present to answer questions. He's run business here in 30 years. On the water, running whale watches, et cetera, along the way. Very informative, very informed about the challenges going on in our waterfront community. The committee voted 3-0 for his approval. Paul Hogg was there to answer some questions. Councilor Donahue asked him the best question, what do you love most about your position? And after 20 minutes, he basically said everything. So he loved helping people. He started out as an assistant. He loved being on the water and the whole thing. And we, too, had approved him at 3-0.
Thank you. Further discussion or questions? Roll call.
Roll call on appointments 315 and 318. Motion to approve. Councilor Wright.
Yes.
Councilor Zede. Councilor Cameron.
Yes.
Councilor Donahue.
Yes.
Councilor Khan. Councilor Lane.
Yes.
Councilor McCauley.
Yes.
Councilor Preston.
Yes.
Councilor Vogel.
Yes.
Councilor Wallace.
Yes.
Councilor Shan.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion to approve Order 345, which is the intermunicipal agreement between the city and Salisbury with regard to the North Jetty Dredge, also called the side dredge.
Second.
Thank you.
We see here in front of us is it's a 50-50 split after we may get some grants.
We're open to apply for grants, and if we get them, we'll split them, and then we'll split the difference again going forward. The attachment that you have here for attachment A is simply for not the whole side dredge, but rather just for the permitting and consulting work and things like that, design that has to happen up front. To do that, it's estimated at $40,000. Our cut on that is $20,000 and a little bit of change, but it's 50-50 along the way. So I'll pause for any questions.
Councilor Zede.
I'm in favor. Of course, I think we asked if this could be done when we funded the, we asked, will Salisbury be paying anything? Because remember, this is the supplemental dredge against the North Jetty, so it's actually on that side of the river. My only request is, can we add, wherever there's the word dredging, can we just ensure that there's the word supplemental in front of it? Because my understanding is this does not apply to the broader dredge project. So there's the federal dredge, which is the Federal Navigation Channel. This is actually a portion that the Harbor Commission and, of course, Salisbury now agreeing is the portion that's pushed up against the North Jetty, which is beneficial to boaters, but is not technically part of the Federal Navigation Channel, which is why the feds won't do it in the first place. So I just want to make ultra clear that this is about the supplemental dredge only, because there's a bigger conversation about the dredge spoils and so forth from the federal project and cost shares and long story short. So, for example, where it says witnesseth and then it says whereas the Newburyport, Salisbury each have an interest in the North Jetty Merrimack River dredging project, it should say river supplemental dredging project to be clear that about what it is that we're talking about. So I think that's a Scrivener's perhaps, because I don't think that changes the intent, but I just want to ask if that could be if KP could speak to KP and they can
Yeah,
make it
I'm
clear.
sure we can get that
Yeah.
in. I'd probably insert the word side dredge as opposed to supplemental, simply because that's what everyone on the water's talking about right now. They're calling it the side dredge. It's on the side of the original deal, okay?
Okay. All right, as a Scrivener's error. All right, so, further discussion? Accepting that,
I'm sorry, so is that a motion amend or is it a friendly?
No, it's something we'll take care of.
Scrivener's error.
It's a Scrivener, we'll add that in a Scrivener piece, not
Two
as an
words,
amendment.
side dredge.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes. We're defining, we're not changing the terms or anything like that.
Just make sure it's ultra clear.
Yeah. So
you
you're really
think we-
adding the word side.
Yeah.
Just saying,
all right.
slate,
So with it being a Scrivener's error, this is just a motion to approve at this point.
okay?
There's no further discussion, roll call.
So motion to approve 345. Counselor Wright.
Yes.
Counselor Z.
Yes.
Counselor Cameron.
Yes.
Counselor Donahue.
Yes.
Counselor Khan.
Yes.
Counselor Lane.
Yes.
Counselor McCauley.
Yes.
Counselor Preston.
Yes.
Counselor Vogel.
Yes.
Counselor Wallace.
Yes.
And Counselor Shan.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Council President, I don't have anything else, but I do want to provide an update. We had some, during our meeting, we had some extended conversation with Paul and Chris, and what we discovered is an update probably for all of the boaters that are around. The Rocks Village Bridge is under construction, and we all know is closed. It will be open for boat traffic through the summer. So those people who use it for, let's say, biking or walking or anything like that will be out of luck. The bridge will be open for marine traffic all summer long. The second news wasn't as great. The Gillis Bridge is going to be closed intermittently. There's things falling off it underneath, and they need to figure out what those things are and where they actually go back onto it. So the state will be closing the opening of the bridge periodically over the next 2 to 3 weeks or so, something like that. That's created some operational issues with some of the taller boats maybe getting stuck upriver, et cetera, on those times. But they're trying to work around it, and I don't think they've listed as critical yet, but they wanted everyone to be aware of it so they're not surprised. And that's it. I yield. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, public facilities
Nothing tonight.
and rules.
Nothing tonight.
All right, good of the order. I will remind folks that Ahavas Akim is having their 125th anniversary this coming Sunday from 4 to 6, I believe. They're doing tours of the synagogue, so it'd be great if folks could come in and attend. Councilor Wallace, I see your hand up.
I couldn't hear, are you on to good of the order yet?
Yes.
Oh, you are, I'm sorry, I just couldn't understand. That was a yes?
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to apologize to the two at-large counselors for using the term retaliatory. Totally not appropriate, and you are entitled to your opinion, and it's not my place to judge how you make your decisions. So I wish I could take that back, but just wanted to let you know. Thanks.
Thanks, Councilor Wallace.
Thank you.
Further good of the order? All right, motion to adjourn.
Second.
Roll call.
Gladly. Counselor Wright.
Yes.
Counselor Z.
Yes.
Counselor Cameron.
Yes.
Counselor Donahue.
Yes.
Counselor Khan.
Yes.
Counselor Lane.
Yes.
Counselor McCauley.
Yes.
Counselor Preston.
Yes.
Counselor Vogel.
Yes.
Counselor Wallace.
Yes.
And Counselor Shan.
Yes.
We are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.